2021, and 7:10 p.m. We're opening the open session, or going back to the open session. For opening announcements, this meeting is being broadcast on local cable TV and recorded for rebroadcast on the local cable channels and on the internet. The meeting is also accessible by remote participation using Zoom, and the Zoom phone number is 646-558-8656. The online meeting ID is 835-3362-6605 with a passcode of 609014. Okay. So, I guess for initial announcement, so the state budget, we received state budget funding authorization for a safety audit of Route 113 at the Pipestave Page School intersection. And that's not going to happen overnight, but just as sort of for public information, we do now have funding for analysis of that intersection from a safety standpoint, and ultimately that will likely lead to some redesign of crossing at that intersection, and ideally we'll be able to apply for state funding for that. But
perhaps with lights.
Right, perhaps with lights, yeah. So this is a step in the right direction to make that area safer for pedestrians to get back and forth across Route 113 Main Street. I'd like to congratulate Mike McCarran on his retirement at the end of this week. It's been quite an interesting last few years, and it's been great, Mike. 11 of them. Good. Okay. It's been great. Really want to thank you for all you've done for the town. You've been a really integral part of the team here for 11 years, and we're going to miss you. Somehow we're going to fill the hole. We're working on that. But yeah, it's been good, and hopefully as you sail off into or ride off into the sunset, drive off into the sunset, everything looks good.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
And so do you want to mention the...
Oh, yeah. So there is on Wednesday, this Wednesday, July 28th, from 4 to 6 p.m., there is a party for Mike. Just congratulating him on his retirement, and it's open to all.
4 to 6 in the annex.
Yeah. But I don't think there's alcohol.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a summer concert series every Thursday from 6:30 to 8 at the bandstand, and you can find more details on the town website. I don't recall who's there. I did look the other day. I don't recall who's there this week, but they're fun concerts. They're great. You don't have to drive far or walk far if you're that close, and I think the weather's supposed to be good, so that's a good thing to consider for this coming Thursday night. The assessor will be sending out a town-wide mailer sometime, I guess, in the next couple of weeks. Is that right, Angus? Yeah, and it'll be to residents regarding the existing tax exemption programs. Apparently, our chief assessor looked at statistically how many people in West Newbury applied to take advantage of the existing tax exemption programs, and we have a very low participation rate relative to other communities in Essex County. So it makes sense to make people aware of what programs are available, and anybody who's eligible might want to give that a thought. Finally, it's just a reminder to subscribe for emailed town announcements and news at the town website, www.wnewbury.org/subscribe. And you can sign up for general announcements or for specific boards or committees? Okay, our first item of regular business is regarding placement of temporary roadside signs.
Mr. Chairman, can I
Yes.
just, I just wanted to know if people remotely can hear well tonight.
Ask Stephanie.
Stephanie?
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks, Archie. So the first one is Cultural Council. And I guess before we, I think it makes sense to talk about the change in policy. Actually, that's right. We were thinking it would make sense to handle pre-existing applications beforehand, before we talk about the change in policy. So the Cultural Council has a request in, and
It was in the last packet, I didn't.
yeah, okay. I don't, I don't recall the dates off the top of my head.
So they're.
Well, they wanted it till almost
Okay.
the end of October.
Yeah, okay.
That's right, it's the yard art.
Okay.
in October.
So, what we had talked about previously in the last meeting was allowing two-week periods. One really at their selection, but it seems as though it would make sense for those 2-week periods to be at the beginning and the end. Although they could be any time within the period they've requested, and they could back up to one another. So conceivably, there could be 4 weeks of continual signage, or there could be 2 weeks at some point and a break, and then another 2 weeks. And as far as locations are concerned, there are, we talked about 5 locations being allowed for any signage request. And there are a number of approved sites that we agreed would generally be approved. And I'm trying to, does anybody recall?
Pipe Stay, the Page School.
I've got Allison's email here.
Okay.
So, leaving aside the ones she had asked about that we don't allow, like the library and post office, which we don't control, we have taken the policy in front of the town offices and the training field, we won't allow. Page School, High School, the Stewart Street Traffic Island, the Bridge Church Street Traffic Island, which is Park and Rec, but they did approve it back
Yep.
in late April or May, actually late May. So, but I think if you were to authorize the 5 that you talked about,
Yep.
With locations to be determined, we have stayed away from traffic islands, as you know, because of
Yeah.
site distance concerns.
Yep. So, at this point then, we're at Page School, Pipe Stave, and essentially they would be across the street from each other.
There's a spot right across from right at the parking lot for the baseball field, Bachelor, which is, there's no plantings there or anything. That's another good one.
Okay.
And by the high school is okay.
Okay.
I just know we traditionally didn't want to have one like right in the center of town, because the places that the garden club has, actually planted stuff, we don't need them sticking 3 signs in those areas.
Okay. So,
The traffic island near my house, people always go to, there's no plantings there. That's an okay spot on Indian Hill and Cherry Hill,
yeah.
that triangle there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are we voting on the actual request?
yeah, we should vote on the request.
Yeah.
And at this point, I guess we don't know what their preference will be for those 2-week periods.
But we just tell them they can do it.
But they can do it,
Yeah.
and then they'll have to communicate with
Okay.
the town manager's office as far as the periods that they choose. Okay, so let's Angus, I know you've been making notes there. What do you show currently for locations that we've just discussed?
We discussed Page School, Pipe Stave, Bachelor Street. We didn't discuss, but Bridge and Church would be another. And then, Traffic Island, Indian Hill, Cherry Hill. You did also mention the high school, but that's actually not town property, that's Pentucket. And I'm aware that, for instance, I think one of the youth leagues corresponded with me late last week saying they wanted me to be aware that they had got permission from the school for the signs that are over at the high school. And those
Well,
are
there is
not-
the strip of land between the parking lot and
Farm Lane.
Farm Lane,
Yeah.
yeah.
Which,
Which is
it-
the town,
which is the town's, yeah, at least some portion of that is, at that point, there is a guardrail, I think, right in the first, isn't there a guardrail right at the beginning there? So.
At the beginning
Yeah,
part,
yes,
yeah.
Okay,
I know, I've stuck stuff there, so.
okay. Okay, so the 5 locations that we're naming then, and I hope this satisfies, the needs for the cultural council are, Page, Pipestave, Bachelor Street, the,
Bridget Church.
Bridge and Church, and the high school, the land, the strip of land is between Farm Lane, at the end of the strip of land is between, Farm Lane and the high school entry road. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody want to make a motion?
Specifically for the cultural council?
Yeah,
or
specifically for the cultural council.
Yeah, it's just, I don't recall what the dates were, but do we not care?
Well, they didn't specify because.
They wanted it basically from
Yeah.
August all the way through the end of October,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's October 24th, I believe, is the date of the yard art event.
All right, so then the motion would just be to allow them at those locations under the,
Under the
policy that we agreed on?
under the 2-2-week, under the policy, which of course it isn't the policy yet, but it will be. And so with 2-2-week periods, within the date range that they request, and those 2-week periods can be anywhere within that date range, including being concurrent. Or not concurrent, but immediately sequential. Yeah.
all right, so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And next is the West Newbury Youth League, again, a request for temporary roadside signs. Again, I don't recall what the time frame was, but I guess similar to what we just did. Now,
Okay, same locations?
yes, same locations, unless, of course, we don't have, they had there was a longer list, I think, of requests.
But like, if, the only thing I was gonna say is, just so we clarify, that was one that was remote, I wasn't hearing everybody
Yeah.
totally clearly, so we said 5, but we mean 5, like, town right-of-ways, but residents can have it in front of their house additionally,
Yeah.
correct? Not 5
Right.
total.
That's correct, yeah,
Yes.
so 5 on town property, and then.
If they have 6 other people on their
Right.
house, they can do that, yeah,
Right.
okay.
Exactly, so,
Okay.
I mean, that's private property, and as long as they're within the existing zoning bylaws, town sign, zoning bylaw, they can put signs up as.
It's just the way it was phrased, it said total, and, yeah, okay.
Okay, yeah,
All right,
I guess
so-
it needs to say total on town property.
I move to approve the Youth League's request to post signs at the 5 locations already mentioned and for the 2-week periods.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so, proposed FY '22 committee appointments, and
We have Ryan Goodwin.
yeah, so we have three requests for tonight. There's Heather Clark for Cultural Council for a 3-year position through June 30th, 2024. Peggy Dunlap for the Historic District Commission, again for 3 years through June 30th, 2024. and Ryan Goodwin for the Personnel Advisory Committee, one-year position through June 30th, 2022.
I'd make a motion to approve the nominees just delineated by Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now, we have requests for special event permits. There are 4 requests. There's request for use of the Dunn property for a wedding ceremony on August 28th. And this is new. This is something that I don't think has been considered before. And you know, it sounds good. It sounds really interesting, but we have to think about what the implications are for the town on a broader basis than this single event. So there would be apparently the wedding is, although the ceremony would be in the north field of the Dunn property, most of the wedding activity would occur in a house or at a house on Chase Street, and folks would be walking from that house. They would be parking along Chase Street and walking either from their cars or from the house to the field, to the north field, and having the ceremony in the north field and then walking back, presumably to the house for a reception. And so some of the concerns that we have is, number one, they're hoping the field will be mowed. That is not on the current town mowing schedule, and you know the DPW is already understaffed and has more on its plate than it can get done. The field would normally be mowed at some point by J.R. Colby, but my understanding is the feedback from J.R. Colby is that they can't assure that the field will have been mowed for hay by that date, which is August 28th.
Is there anyone here about this?
Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Kaylee, and this is August.
Hi, how are you guys
Hi,
doing?
guys.
Hi.
So, have you talked to Mr. Colby? Was he amenable to doing the mowing a little earlier, or no?
So, I spoke with Wayne from the DPW, and he said that, same that you mentioned, they can't guarantee that they'll come before August 28th, but that they usually come before August 28th. And that if it's not done a week before our date, then Wayne said we could potentially, with your permission, do some area, like mow some area on our own for the ceremony.
How large an area would you need, just for the structure that you want to?
So, actual dimensions, I'm not totally sure, but it would be as small as.
Probably like half an acre.
There would be a lot of work to chop all that.
Yeah. So so it's essentially what you need is a probably a couple of 100-foot maximum diameter area, and that's something that you would take care of mowing on your own.
Yes.
Okay. Wayne, do you have your?
Yeah, is this one working?
I think so. Yeah, it should be.
So I did talk to J.R. Colby. There's a very good chance it will be mowed by then, because he already started mowing the field.
Yep.
But with the rain keep coming, he keeps working it. It's a great hay season.
Yeah.
It's raining. This
Right. There's a lot of moisture.
So
Yeah.
if it was last year, he would have said, I don't care. I didn't want to hate it because it's not worth its value.
Yeah.
It's a lot of value this year. So he does want to mow it this year. That's
Yeah.
why he's trying to get in there. If he doesn't have it mowed, as we said, a week prior, we would meet J.R. Colby out there prior and tell him what we're trying to do prior to the event. But I was telling JR, like maybe 150 by 150 feet. It's 80 people, I think the application said. We could squeeze 150 people in 80 people in 150 by 150.
Yeah,
foot
sure, yeah.
strip with a little path going up to it.
Okay.
And that's something, you know, that we'll have to look at the condition of the field at that point. It might be something that public works may have to do because it might be too high, unless you have a commercial tractor. I don't think you do. But, you might not be able to handle that, and we could go in, it'll take us 25 minutes to do a square for that.
Yeah, okay.
So, we got no problem with it, and Jay doesn't have a problem with it.
Okay, all right, so that wouldn't be a problem for you, okay, great.
What about the traffic? I mean, I see both chiefs signed off on it, but the parking on Chase Street?
Yeah, and did you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I spoke to Chief Durant, because, he hadn't specified need for details, but as you know, we've had a number of concerns over years about the speeds on Chase and the width of Chase. Mm-hmm. So I would recommend that, he said, he can let the officer on duty know that the event was going on.
Jeff is right.
If the town wanted to be, oh, here you are. Oh, I didn't see you on there. So,
he was just checking to make sure you're getting it right.
I think that the distinction between having a private event with overflow parking on public way is one thing, but if the town was to actively sanction this event, I do think we need to be mindful of, if the unlikely event there was an accident, we need to make sure we've done our due diligence, and it would seem like a single detail officer from say 1 to 5 p.m. would do a lot to minimize any exposure the town would have, especially where this is not a location we include on our rental schedule. It's not something we report to insurance as a location where we make it available. So if we were to do so, I think we would be advised to take appropriate precautions.
Okay, so Kaylee, and I'm sorry, August, okay. So you guys understand, one of the things we have to be concerned about is the town's exposure. Is there any potential liability? And it's a stretch. I mean, nothing's going to happen. But, we need to make sure that the town is adequately covered in the extremely unlikely event that something does happen, some crazy drive down the road and hit somebody. So, I think based on and this is actually oddly, I think, a union contract issue, if we have an officer there on detail, the limitation is 4 hours minimum, that they need to be there, they need to be compensated for. And is that correct, Jeff, if I remember that right?
On a weekend, it's time and a half.
Okay, and at time and a half, so I don't know exactly what that works out to be, but that is something that we would need to require, in order to allow this on town-owned property. And as because as Angus said, we're essentially sanctioning it by allowing it to happen on town-owned property. So we become the perceived deep pockets if somebody thinks they have to, that a lawsuit is necessary. I don't know, do you have any thoughts on that? I'm sure that doesn't sound great, but it's, it's kind of, we have to deal with that harsh part of reality.
Yeah, so, we did also get, liability coverage. Would that be on top, we need both? We need liability coverage and...
Mike, I think we probably still do, unless the liability coverage extended to the town as well.
Policy, they would have the town as added as an additional insured, so the town would, so they would have liability coverage, but we would also be covered on that.
Yeah.
The detail is, more of a, public safety issue of, under a special event policy that we have, where the board has the right to require detailed circumstances where they deem it to be more appropriate.
Okay.
And one other thing, just too, is shouldn't you have like prohibition of, one side should be no parking, maybe the residence side, so that all the cars have to park on one side, because otherwise, you know, people like to be as close to the venue as possible.
It looks
Yeah.
like that's the way it
Yeah.
is.
So you're saying the no parking would be on the resident side, or it would be the opposite side, maybe?
No, to keep away from the resident houses,
Okay,
but on the field side.
Parking on the field side.
yeah, okay, well, the resident, all right, at that end, so.
I'm talking about the residents across the street
Okay,
from the house.
but they're still quite a ways down from there, aren't they?
They're right there.
Yeah.
Not many.
Okay.
Jeff, what do you think, do we need,
Well,
to put a parking program?
I guess regardless, the side I was thinking was the side you're talking, on the field side anyway, because we don't want to encourage people to be walking across the street.
Right.
You know, I mean, if you have it on the other side, then everybody has to cross the street. There's no need to require that.
Right.
We can provide no parking signs
Mhm.
we put up, and, you know, hopefully there'll be 2 officers on. I'll have one check the area. I spoke with Angus earlier about a detail officer. I'll look at the plans again tomorrow, revisit that, if it's necessary or not.
Okay. So then should we wait and hear or just make a decision and?
No, we gotta make a decision.
Contingent on.
Yeah, I think we
Jeff's-
need to make a decision. So, you know, the only other thing I think we have to just touch on is, because this is something that hasn't been done before, you know, it's sort of it's a precedent, you know, it's something new, and is there anything we need to think about relative to that? You know, so sort of a new use for a piece of property that hasn't been, you know, it's been a recreational, essentially used for recreational purposes by the town up to this point in time. Is there anything else we need to think about?
I don't know, I mean, a lot of towns do these kinds of things.
Yeah. And I don't mean to make a federal case, I just
Yeah.
think, you know, it's our responsibility to make sure that we've considered every aspect.
Yeah, I don't see any issues with it, and, you know, if there is an issue,
Yeah.
then the next time we could
Well,
say, oh, that didn't work.
It
So-
could be a learning
Yeah,
experience
okay.
too, yeah.
Okay, great. All right,
So I move that we approve this, special event permit, and, with the parking and detail arrangements that the chief determines are necessary to protect the public.
Second,
any further discussion? All in favor?
aye,
Aye. Have a great wedding.
congratulations.
Yeah. Okay. The next special event permit is for Essex County Greenbelt for the Tour de Greenbelt fundraising cycling event.
So they're not actually stopping, they're just riding through the town,
In
right?
fact, for a fairly short distance.
It's a relatively short area, yeah.
Yeah. I can't recall in this case, for this particular event, I think it's maybe just, they take South Street to Scotland, you know, come off.
It goes South Street to
Yeah.
Georgetown.
So I think they're on one street in West Newbury, you know, on South Street for a mile and a half or so.
It's just under a mile.
Just under a mile, okay, great, thanks. Yeah, so it's pretty limited within West Newbury. Good luck, have fun.
I have no questions on this.
Yeah, everything looks
Okay.
good. So I move that we approve this special event permit for Essex County Greenbelt on Saturday, September 18th, 2021.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Aye. Hopefully I'll be riding it.
Thank you very much.
And the next is Newburyport Half Marathon on October 24th. And this is by the same organization for the two?
No, they're two,
Okay.
I thought the same
Okay,
thing.
yeah,
Different.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I meant to read, look at that. Okay, so, for a, October 24th, Newburyport Half Marathon. And,
I just had a question.
Yep.
The temporary toilet facilities, is that something that usually happens? Garden and, is that Brown?
yes,
Okay.
Yes, we have a relay stop there, so about 50 to 100 people, do a relay. They're grounds, so, and we do the transportation as well, but we've always had at least one porta potty there.
Okay.
So we usually try to like minimize the time that it's there.
Yes.
That's all.
Yeah, they can do it within I use a local place, so they can do it within a day turnaround. Have it set up the night before and take me to that day, the first thing.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. And I don't have any other questions.
That was just about the porta potty was all
Okay.
I make a motion to approve the event permit for the Newburyport Half Marathon on October 24th.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you guys, appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And then we have another Newburyport Half Marathon on November 7th.
This is for the people that still haven't finished the other marathon. They're still on.
The slower runners?
Well, make sure everybody's included.
Is the answer the same regarding porta potties?
Well, no, so we're not doing the relay.
Okay.
Because I depend on the logistics for
Yeah.
the past races.
Okay.
It just seemed too cloggy. to
Yeah,
me.
okay.
And for the ROI that maybe I came with, again, it just didn't seem, the hassle and the traffic issues seemed worth it. to me.
Okay.
So, in regards to how you guys are concerned, where we're going, West Newbury, of course it is the same, but we're not doing the relay stuff.
Okay.
It's actually gonna be less congestion.
You know, we didn't talk about the course, but as opposed to the Greenbelt ride, in your case, you come across the Middle Street Bridge, I think you go up to Garden Street to Rogers Street to Turkey Hill, and
Yeah, so we're
Yeah.
just gonna run, we're gonna have 2 water stops in there,
Yeah.
which is just, we talked to the neighbors, have some tables set up, and
Yeah.
pick up all the garbage, but that's really pretty much sent it through. I think we usually have 2 police details at, I think, Middle and at Rogers, so just so they come on, just to keep slow cars down.
Okay.
So I'll talk to the police about that and make sure they're on TV.
Okay. Jeff, do you have any, we should ask you for the last one as well, but any.
Not that works.
Yeah.
Middle, garden and Rogers and garden.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a comment, crossing the bridge is getting more uneven, so
Okay.
just, the runners should be aware that the last thing we want them to do is tripping on the bad bridge. I was there this afternoon, so it's,
I'll go check it out.
yeah.
So the failed bridge is failing.
It's
more.
really, getting that way, yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't complaining that I said, that was great for us runners.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, it's a great stretch of road because there's no traffic. You know, you've got over a mile there with not a single car.
And maybe not like 70 of them on the bridge at the same time.
Right.
Yeah. But usually it's pretty thinned out by when you're a mile.
Yeah, I'm just joking, yeah.
So it is single file get through the Jersey barriers anyway. So
Chief Chairman, I just had a question, and, you've obviously reviewed this and approved it. I mean, how does the detail get triggered in? They just check in with you the week before, or?
Yeah, I'll have a request up on the board and that'll be filled by the officers.
Okay. So it doesn't say on here that a detail is needed, but that's just understood?
No, it
No, it does.
I took some pictures, Rick. I took some pictures today, and it's suckier than it's been, yeah.
Prior to that, starting in the middle, and Turkey Hill at Rogers.
Oh, 36, okay.
30 page.
I'm on the.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Oh,
but it's
yeah, that
got
was
the
also
same
on the
note.
same
Yeah,
language,
okay,
yeah.
thanks, I didn't catch that. All right.
motion?
Make a motion to approve the special event request for the Newburyport Half Marathon on November 7th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Won't leave this well.
Okay, and we have
Big
oh,
chunks,
wow,
yeah.
that's new. Wow, that is a big new chunk.
Just updated pictures of the bridge.
What's that?
The picture is fuzzy. It wasn't, and now it is, if you look at our.
Yeah.
Oh.
No great loss.
That's right.
Speaking for myself.
Well, I can stop our video and then restart it and see if that helps.
Okay.
Yep, that's it.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so we have a request for one-day liquor license for Remembrance of Life in the Town Annex on August 21st.
So it says the activity is for profit, is that correct?
No, that seemed odd, yeah.
You know, Angus?
It's certainly, that seems to be it.
Yeah.
They checked the wrong box.
Okay,
I saw that too.
yeah, I mean,
So we'll assume that's an error. Yes?
Question? I'm Steve Spanger.
Oh, hi, Steve.
Oh, right,
Thanks.
okay.
Yeah. Well, I didn't hear the first.
so, there's a box on here that says the activity is either profit or non-profit, and,
Oh, it's non-profit.
okay, it's the for-profit box was checked, so just confirming.
Get the wrong box.
Okay.
Great, thanks. So how's this usually handled? I haven't,
Stephen, how many people would you think that might be?
That's a really good question. At least 50, and maybe 100. We're trying to determine that, at this point. I can't be really sure. And the calling hours from 1 to 4 in Newbury for Project Funeral Home. I think that'll be the biggest crowd, and then we'll have people back for refreshments.
Because if it's 100, we have to have a detail, I think, according to the.
There's any alcohol, so.
Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
Trigger the detail.
Right, I think regardless of the quantity, right, of the number of people, there's, yeah.
I was told that I would require a detail, and that's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
I haven't looked for a long time, but there used to be a liquor liability policy, I think that for $2 million, I think, for alcohol.
Yeah.
Coverage right under the town bylaws. I haven't looked for a long time.
Okay. Angus might have a sense of that.
I used to, but
Yeah,
it's somewhere in our,
Okay.
I mean, these
Yeah,
are.
but
In the special event policy.
Yeah.
Special event, policy.
okay.
So I make a motion to approve this request for a one-day liquor license on August 21st with the caveat that there has to have the detail and.
Okay, and that's 4 to 6. I guess once again that union contract requires a 4-hour minimum, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Second?
is that what that look means? Second, yes, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Just another question, in terms of the detail, how far in advance do I have to arrange that?
Well, we have the plans, so we'll make sure there's an officer there.
Oh, okay, all right, and you just fill me?
Yep.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Okay, great. So, we will move on to a request for appointment of Cameron Fountain or Fontaine? Fountain, okay, as a reserve police officer.
Okay, I'd like to have Cameron Fountain appointed as a reserve officer for the town. He's completed the reserve academy, currently works at Lowell General Hospital in the security guard. He has a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. He passed all the pre-hiring tests, and he's eager to get started.
Okay, great. And so it's interesting, he's got a bachelor's degree in criminal justice already, so that maybe he'll decide to stay here.
You hope.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be good. Okay, I don't have any questions. Jeff, you and I talked about it a little bit earlier, so it's.
I make a motion to, appoint, Cameron Fountain as a reserve officer in the West Newbury Police Department for, a term beginning, or ending, is there, on reserves, do we make it an ending or no?
We do typically reappoint every.
Okay, ending, 6/30/2022.
Second.
Any discussion?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And then the next line is a request for a waiver of 15-day period for appointment of Caitlin Chiui. I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name, as a reserve dispatcher.
Okay, yeah, I've asked that the 15-day waiver take place. She currently works full-time dispatch for Essex Regional. She's also completed the Reserve Police Officer Academy. She has all the certificates she needs to start right away, so it would be a quick turnaround with her.
Yeah.
And she's interested in working here part-time.
Okay. Do you think there's any opportunity that she might be interested in? So this is a dispatch position, but she's already been through the police academy. She's looking to move on
I think
to.
her ultimate goal is to be a police officer.
Yeah.
So just having the knowledge of attending the academy can help her with dispatch.
Dispatch. Okay.
Make a motion to approve Caitlin Chuli as a reserve dispatcher with a term ending 6/30/2022.
Are we asking to approve or waive
Wait
the?
the waiting.
Okay, I'm sorry, yeah, okay.
Second.
Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
And we have a request for a waiver of the 15-day period for appointment of an assistant town, of our new assistant town clerk. And so she would be coming in as a
Level 5.
Level 5, a grade 5. Within that wage range of a grade 5, and within the existing approved budget, which is all good.
I think, don't we have to vote on changing it to a grade 5 first?
I think you're right.
What I could do if
I didn't hear what Wendy said.
you agree,
She wondered if we need to change to a grade 5 right first.
I can just give a brief summary of the applicant and the process. So we received 12 applications for the assistant town clerk position. We invited 4 for interview. One of the candidates withdrew after being offered an interview, so we interviewed 3. We had Christine Marshall is the candidate that I'm bringing forward for appointment. Really stood out, excellent candidate. She spent 5 years as the assistant town clerk in Salisbury, 4 years as the assistant treasurer collector in Newbury, and about 6 years working for the community services department as office administrator in the town of Andover. She's presently with the town of Topsfield in the assessing department, but felt that this position substantively was a better fit for her. And so we had a second interview on Friday, and very happy with the appointment. And I had brought to the board earlier an executive session that in reviewing comparable wages, I think the position ought to be a grade 5 position. So that's the other request that I put to you, is to reclassify the assistant town clerk as a grade 5 as opposed to a grade 4.
Okay. So it seems like the first motion would be to reclassify the position as a grade 5 instead of a grade 4.
Yeah, and I think based on the comparison that Angus prepared, what current people in grade 4 positions versus current people in grade 5, it's clearly a grade 5 in terms of responsibilities. So I would move to change the grade level for the assistant town clerk to a grade 5.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then the second request would be to waive the 15-day notification period in order for the appointment to become effective.
So moved.
Okay. And just for a little bit more background, as far as interviews are concerned, Wendy Reed, one of our select board members, participated, as did Stephanie Frontier, the town accountant, with Angus in the interview process for the finalists for this position.
Yeah, and Mike was part of the initial round of interviews as well.
Correct.
So I move that we waive the 15-day period for appointment of the assistant town clerk.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Oh, that's good. That's important. As we rebuild our town clerk office. Okay, and then the next is again a request for a waiver for a 15-day period for appointment of the town clerk. And this would be for a town clerk replacing Mike McCarron. And Angus, do you want to give a little background again?
Yes, interestingly, we got the same number of applicants for the clerk position. We had 12 applicants. We invited 4 forward for interview. We conducted initial round interviews with 4, with 3 people invited back for second interviews. Mike and myself conducted the first round interviews, and as you said, Stephanie, Wendy, and myself conducted the second round interviews. And very pleased to present Jim Blatchford as the recommended or the candidate that I'd intend to appoint. Jim's currently the assistant city clerk in the city of Haverhill. He is here tonight, and I know we'll be pleased to speak with the board directly about what interests him in the position and what he brings to the table.
Great, good. Hi, Jim.
Hi.
Sorry, I step over here. Good evening. Thank you all for having me.
Yeah. Well, thanks for your interest, and yeah, it sounds like you've got a good match in terms of experience. Leading up to our need right now. So.
I had initially saw the posting and I thought this would be a great place to work.
Yep.
Only has 15 minutes to my commute to begin with, so that's number one. But
hopefully it's a 1-minute commute currently, and this will make it 16 minutes. But
it really kind of came down to I think I can really sink my teeth into things that need to be done here.
Okay.
I know I have the experience that can pick up the basic stuff immediately and then make sure I really learn the things that I haven't learned yet, as it were, but also I can lean on friends who are in the clerk communities in Merrimack and Groveland. I already have good friends there, and of course I'll be calling Mike whenever I have real problems. But
He may not pick up the phone.
Jim?
But I do look forward to serving you guys.
great. Well, it's interesting. You already have contacts who are clerks in Groveland and Merrimack, seeing as they're the other communities in our school district. We share some common interest with.
Yeah. Gwen and Beth have been actually very good colleagues. I worked them when I'm on the table, and I got to help them out for their elections because towns and cities are a little off on their local elections. So
Yep.
I help them out there. But obviously that'll change while I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, I've actually had a conversation with them and told them I applied. They were very excited to be able to.
Great. Good.
So part of what appealed to us, I think, about Jim's application is, he's got significant experience in the clerk's office. He's also served on the planning board in the city of Lawrence for about 5 years, and on the school committee, including as vice chair for about 4 years, and was the chair of the community development advisory board in the city of Lawrence. So, has a broad, scope of understanding of the different issues that come up.
Yeah, that's great. Good. Yeah, that'll be valuable. That'll help you working with the other existing boards
Angus and I, well, and Wendy and all had this conversation, but, I know it's, in a town, it's a team sport, as it were. It's not, I get to sit in silo in the clerk's office and do the clerk things, as it were. It's
Yeah.
hands on deck.
Great, well, and that's important, yeah, I think that's real important. Because there's not huge redundancy, so everybody needs to help everybody else out.
So Jim, what's it gonna be like coming from a big place, Haverhill, to this? Is it gonna be challenging enough for you, or?
Oh, yes, quite. It will be less stressful when it comes to running an election. I don't have to run 21 precincts, I get to run one. But it will be, more things on my plate as well, because I'm going from a staff of 5 to a staff of 2. So, a little bit more on me, and the new assistant, but, I think we'll be able to handle it.
Great. Good. Well, we're looking forward to having a good team.
All right, I move to waive the 15-day period for appointment of the town clerk.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Good. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good night.
Bye-bye. Okay, so the next item is continued discussion of Chapter 61A, right of first refusal for the Graff property at Middle Street and Kimball Road.
And did you both see the 2 additional letters that I received today?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So, yeah, this is a difficult decision, I think, for everybody. And it's, it is, the property represents an iconic view. The price tag represents a startling number. And so how do we balance that all out? I'm guessing that a number of the people here, I know some Maltzes are here for that, and I'm not sure who else.
Mr. Chairman, I have a comment.
Sure, great.
Okay. Just the one thing I can't see is the town putting the money up in whole from CPA or just a regular town budgeting. But if you, as this would be something that future residents would gain benefit from, not necessarily people that have seen it all. They're people that have, say someone that moves or someone that passes away or something. You'll have to see my thinking here. They're not going to get the benefit of spending a whole bunch of money on a scenic view. This is something that the people in the future are going to get the benefit of. So if the town in its wisdom, the residents, the voters felt that it's something that we should preserve, then I could see myself supporting bonding the issue. In other words, if somebody 10 years from now is going to get the benefit of it, so the people 10 years from now should actually be the people that would be contributing to that via their tax revenue, rather than people that are necessarily right here now or that might move. Placing the entire burden on the existing taxpayers seems unfair to me. So that's sort of my thinking. So I ran the numbers, and if we borrowed $1 million, just approximately at 2.5% over 20 years, we're talking. It depends on the rate of interest, but I just picked 2.5% just for the heck of it to bonding the purchase price. So that would be in the neighborhood of, 70,000 a year. That depends on borrowing costs and all that kind of stuff, but that gives you a ballpark figure of something that actually might be doable. So I'm just throwing that out on the table. And I know you haven't heard that before, but I just
No,
threw that
that's,
out.
yeah, I hadn't, I guess haven't thought about it in that perspective, that, stretching it out using a bond. I've been concerned at the idea of using, $1.1 million of CPA funds in one fell swoop, and what opportunity costs there might be later, when something else came up.
But this is something that the benefit lives on, so that somebody that moves to town 7 years from now, they would still be a taxpayer that would be contributing to that, and they would be getting the benefit of it, whereas somebody that, lives here right now and moves next year, their tax rate would reflect the whole, if we paid for it all, they would be on the hooks, in a sense, in a small fashion for the whole thing. It's just another way of looking at it, but.
Yes.
Kurt Holtz from Middle City, the butters to the property.
Can people hear that?
Stephanie, can you hear Mr. Umholtz? Do you want to speak up again, just I think she probably can from where
Yeah,
you're sitting.
okay. Anyway, with that in mind, would that be something where you could bond it and use ongoing CPA revenue in the amount of whatever it is, 60 or 70,000 a year over that period of time, sort of to tie it to the use and associate the incoming annual CPA revenue with the commitment?
Well, that would be the idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what
That's kind of what we're doing with the soldiers. Yeah.
Right. The question is, how many times
can we do that?
Can we or do we want to do that? Because, we're encumbering future payments into CPA, and, again, what else is going to come up that we don't envision yet? And at some point, if it becomes a habit to encumber a CPA with bond payments, at some point there'll be, net no contribution each year. That's the limit case, but any thoughts, Wendy?
I don't have any additional thoughts. I mean, it's really not the value of that particular property that it doesn't have trails, or that, it's not connected to other networks. I mean, it's clearly a valuable scenic resource. I have a hard time with the price tag on it. I don't see any way around it if the owners aren't willing to negotiate, and the abutters or interested citizens aren't able to, put together funds to help in the purchase. It's really difficult to justify for me.
Yeah.
So, with regard to butters or fundraising, the way that this developed and the opportunity to actually raise money for it, hasn't really provided an opportunity for folks to do that. We looked for an organization to underwrite the fundraising with Greenbelt, but the project didn't meet what they were looking to do. So we didn't really have a nonprofit or an umbrella to contribute or pledge money to in order to provide some interest in that area. And I think we could pull together something. I know, at least from our point of view, that would be, something that we participate in meaningfully. But, I think there is an opportunity for that. And, as I mentioned at the last meeting, the opportunity to preserve vistas in town is a finite list. And, if you look at the concern about making these type of commitments again and again until you have no net new revenue coming into the CPA fund. If you don't do this, you have nothing to preserve in this category. So that's part of the balance too.
Okay, go ahead, Mike.
I just think you have to also consider that this is only half, not even half, the apple, in the sense is that if you wanted to preserve the view there, you'd have to also purchase the back property, which is also another $1 million. So the commitment isn't $1 million, it's at least multi-millions of dollars, in the future, because it would be somewhat foolhardy to purchase the front 5 acres and leave the back 9 acres to be developed, which it could be, So,
Is it 9, the back part?
yeah,
I
that's
think
about that.
it's 8.
Yeah,
Okay.
eight,
Yeah, so I think in the last meeting, someone had said that there was a CR on it, and it's not actually a CR, but there is a deed restriction, but it's only for 20 years. So, just want to clarify that point. I found that after the meeting.
If the owners of that property were to commit to a longer term conservation restriction or something like that as part of this, would that move the needle?
Seems to me that it would. I mean, my personal opinion is that, if it's a conservation restriction, if it times out at 20 years or 30 years or 40 years, it still times out. And, if our goal is to preserve something, then we ought to be preserving it for, as close to perpetuity as we can get. I don't, if they doubled it to 40 years, I mean, I'll be gone. But
No, but if they were willing to
know.
work with Greenbelt and
Yeah.
establish a CR on the property, I mean, that would make a difference. For me, I still don't know how we would pay for it, but.
Yeah. Yes?
I go here.
Yeah, I should be able to, yeah.
So I live on Middle Street, just down from this property, just off of Bachelor. And we've been here 5 years. I did send a letter in an email maybe a month or so ago. So I was glad to be able to have the opportunity to come to the meeting tonight. But I understand what you're saying about future generations, future people paying for it because they're the ones that get to enjoy it. But I do understand from the slideshow that someone had put together and shared on Facebook that was very informative that there are a limited number of these scenic vistas left in West Newbury that are even available ever to be preserved. And so, as a property owner who pays property taxes, it seems like to me, for us, it was part of our decision to buy in West Newbury, that this was the feeling of the community, the rural farmlands, especially this one on Middle Street, that is so well trafficked and loved by people all around this area. I can tell you the number of runners and bikers on Middle Street on any given, weekend morning. But I think it preserves our property values, which then directly ties into the amount of money that's available in the fund because it is a percentage of the property taxes that are paid. So in that way, it does benefit everyone who lives here today, who might sell tomorrow, who might sell 5 years from now. It preserves the character of West Newbury, but also sends a statement to people who might want to buy in this area that we have a council, a town that is committed to preserving what they're buying into, the investment that they're making. Homes in this area are a sizable investment. You can get more house for less money in another community that doesn't feel like this. But if we don't preserve what it feels like and really convey to people who want to invest here that their investment is safe, I just think that's worth considering.
Thanks. Yes?
I'm sorry, if you could just give your name for the minutes.
Sorry, okay, my name is Sherry Chandler.
Great, thanks.
Just one quick note, Ellen Alden. I know someone said, there's no trail system, but there is a Marietta Hunt route that goes right through that property. And I think that's something that's really important to consider, and also to follow up what this lady said. Any survey we've ever done for this town has always, the top thing has been open space and view corridors and scenic views, and that's a big priority with the general public.
just to follow up on your statement, is that the deed to the current owner says that the property will be kept in 61A for at least 5 years. And then also it would be further subdivided for 20 years.
Oh, so that must be what they were referring to. Yeah.
So, but that doesn't mean that it couldn't be developed. Meaning someone could theoretically build a, open space development there
and that would be subdivided. Okay. And you found that on the registry of deeds?
Yeah, let them look at the deed.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah, excuse me, I'm so sorry I have my hand up and I would love to share a few comments if recognized by the board.
Sure, go ahead, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Jen Wright and I am the owner of the property, the Working Kimball backlot as you're referring to. And I do appreciate you all having this conversation. We have done a lot of research with neighbors about offering up a trail system. We would also be interested in, if you had a desire to continue this conversation, to certainly talk about creating long-term restrictions on the property. So I did want to just mention that to you all, and we too would like to see it preserved. So I would like for you all to know that that's something that we are interested in.
Could you just sort of clarify or repeat what you said at the beginning? So you own the property, the adjacent, or the balance of what was referred to as the Graff property?
Exactly, yes.
So with the one so you own the barn, the existing house and the barn,
mm-hmm.
and the 8 or 9 acres
in the back.
The 8 acres, yes, we do. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And we are more than happy to cooperate if, and have some further discussions if this is certainly something that the board is interested in doing with us, to be sure that this does remain open space. So I just wanted to be sure that you all were aware of that.
Well, it seems to me it's worth having more conversation about that.
How much more time do we have?
Well, I think the clock was it 120 days, Mike?
120 days.
Excuse me?
120 days.
120 days, and the clock started ticking on June 15th, right?
Oh,
so,
all right.
So we're about 40 days, not quite 40 days into it now.
Mm-hmm.
So we have 80 days left.
And that's a lot for this kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah, we also would have to figure out how to fund it. We need, certain funding before we. And town meeting isn't within 80 days. That special town meeting isn't within 80 days. On the other hand, we don't have to make a decision tonight. We can.
And it's also within the board's authority to set a special town meeting.
Yeah.
Sure, relatively short notice.
Yeah.
An option, yeah.
Okay. Well, Jen, that's very valuable to hear that. It definitely does change the discussion.
There's also somebody else with their hand up.
Okay. Oh yeah, I see it. Kathy Whittington.
And this is Richard Whittington. My wife Kathy is here with me. Excuse me, I'm trying to unmute myself.
We can hear you. Okay.
Thank you. I am in favor of using CPA money where it's appropriate. This seems like a grand idea to me. It's good use of state funds and local funds mixed together. I understand that there are concerns over opportunity costs if we spend a lot of money. I'm wondering, are there other CPA projects that are ongoing that are being that you're concerned about? Because we have opportunity costs already, and this would add to it, or would this be one of the first?
Do you mean, are there other potential CPA fund expenditures in the works? Is that what you meant?
Yeah, I'm asking because it seems like there's a concern over CPA funds being used up or not being available for future use. And I recognize that concern. I just don't know our exposure. I wondered if somebody there could help me understand.
Yeah, well, so although we probably can't say a whole lot of detail at this point, there is at least one other significant piece of property that was mentioned on the front page of the Daily News this morning that perhaps could be something that CPA funds would be used for, but we don't really know much about that opportunity at this minute because literally we've just learned about it. But the nature of land acquisitions using CPA funds seems to be that you may have identified 50 parcels, but you never know which parcel actually will become available. And when it does become available, you frequently don't have a whole lot of time to deliberate and to figure out how you're going to raise the money. If we have to be careful how we deplete the pool of readily available funds. That's, part of the beauty of CPA funds is that they're readily available and dependable. And, so when you commit them, you don't want to overcommit because you don't want to dry up the well. I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Thank you for the clarification. In general, I'm in favor of this particular acquisition. Thanks for the clarification.
Sure, thank you. Well, it seems to me that it would make sense to talk a little bit further with the rights, and not tonight, not in this meeting, but what do you?
Information, it doesn't matter what, it gets more information, yeah.
So would we do that as a board, or, how would that work?
I think we would do that as a board. It seems to me that it would make sense to do it as a board.
In an open meeting? Or is that?
Mike, in your opinion, that conversation, would that need to be in an open meeting, or would that appropriately be a discussion in executive session?
If the quorum of the board met with the potential owner here, it would have to be an open session.
Yeah.
Because, the purpose for executive session is that one meeting is to discuss strategy with regard to the acquisition of land.
Okay.
Not the negotiations with the land. Obviously, one member of the board could have discussions and then strategize with the board as to, acquisition of real estate. But if the quorum met with the owner, then it would have to be an open meeting.
Okay. I can't offer to have that conversation in the next few weeks because I'm not going to be here, and I can't.
Yeah, I'm happy to do it unless you want to, Archie.
No, go ahead. Okay.
All right. So Jen, I'll reach out to you in the next couple of days to try to set up a time to meet. How does that sound?
That sounds great, thank you. We did have one final comment.
Hey, Jen, just before we lose you, can you make sure you get your contact info to the town manager's office, please?
Sure, absolutely. We did also have just one more piece to add, if you wouldn't mind. Mike Morris is here, my husband, Mike.
Hi, Rick. Mike Morris here, Jen's husband. Anyway.
There we go.
We had also, early on before we bought this property, we were trying to figure out a way to preserve that lower field. And, I don't know if you know, but, my dad, who owned a property in, Newbury, worked out a situation with Greenbelt in the state of Massachusetts to create the, Hans Morris Reservation. Now, the whole property was about 20 acres or so, but there's a hiking trail of maybe a half mile to 0.6 miles, which is actually very doable for most people. And so when we looked at the lower field and then the Beech Tree Forest, which is very open on our property, it basically came up with a trail similar in length. That would be willing to, work, if we could put this whole thing together, maybe, an easement or something to give public access to that Beech Tree Forest. So I think if we can make this all happen, it would be more than just a view, but it would also give people access to the property and ways to walk off of the street and, through the property and the forest itself and enjoy some of that. So those are all things that we're still very open to.
Okay. Well, Mike, just to make sure I understand, this is the same Mike Morris I know from Storm Surge.
Correct.
Yeah, it sounded like your voice. Okay. Hi, how you doing?
Good.
So thank you very much for your time, and we will certainly provide our contact information and get that over to you just as soon as possible tomorrow.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Yep.
I'm sorry, what was that, Archie? The third from... Great. Yeah, thanks, Jen and Mike. So, I'm sorry. Okay.
Just wanted to tell you something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, this is good, new, interesting information.
Yep.
So, great, Wendy. So you'll have a conversation. Okay, great.
And then I guess if you're not going to be here at the next meeting, we won't discuss it then.
No, I'll talk. I'll call into the meeting.
Okay.
I plan to call into the meeting, but
Okay.
I'll be 3,000 miles away. So,
All right.
Yeah.
And so that could be an executive session, right?
If you're talking about strategy
Yeah.
with regard to the acquisition of real estate.
Does that include CRs?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
CRs are real estate.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Okay. Okay, good. So, well, thanks. Everybody else all said. No other questions, I guess. So.
Just one, if it's helpful for us or me to reach out again to Greenbelt with this new information, to see if, because they were kind of waiting. I mean, we talked to them. They were waiting for sort of somebody to jump on board.
Okay.
So if that's helpful, I can do that again and see what kind of help that they're able to put into this, or suggestion, or maybe even oversight.
Yeah, thanks. I think maybe we can start with the owners, and it might be a better arrangement if we contact Greenbelt if we decide to move forward.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But Greenbelt might actually be an interesting part of the discussion.
Yeah.
Later, once we try to establish whether or not we can find enough solid common ground. But
I think it's also important to keep in mind that, as Jen Wright said, there's potential for trail on that site, but there's also future potential across the street. I mean, maybe not. I mean, that's a big possibility, obviously, but there's more potential there, so it doesn't just kind of end with that lot. So for something to think about, it may be many years down the road, I don't know, but.
Well, it certainly makes it more attractive if the back part of it is also available.
Yeah.
So, I'm just going to float another idea. So, if, say, the town were to acquire this land, what if we were to consider siting, say, a single, appropriately located, as innocuously located as possible, duplex for affordable housing, sort of an incremental step, where it doesn't impact the view, or has, you know, on a scale of 1 to 10, only a 1 impact on the view, but, you know, serves an additional need that the town has. You know, I don't know if you can get there or not, but it's just a thought.
Keep in mind, yeah. I mean, anytime we can satisfy more than one need, you know.
It makes it easier to justify, right?
Yeah. Okay, well, let's start with the back part and see where we can.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you want to, set a date for your next discussion in open session, whether that's on the 9th or at a different date, just for the benefit of those who are tracking the process?
Yeah, I guess I'd like to wait till on.
I think that's too presumptuous at the moment, yeah. I think we need to get Wendy to talk to them
and then talk about what
yeah.
So no earlier than 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, so we'll talk in executive session then, and then, yeah.
Okay, so maybe on the 9th, would the board at that time set a date, whether it was the 30th or subsequent or different than that? I'm just thinking, you know, where we had sent out a mailing, and so I want to make sure that those who got that and who are tracking it, including the landowner who's on the call, you know, have some advance notice of when it's going to come up in open session. So maybe on the 9th, after the executive session, you could announce when it will be discussed again.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. So the earliest, I guess, would be on August 30th.
Yeah.
So 120 days from June 13th puts us at October 15th, roughly. Not quite, you know, October 10th or so. Boy, another 2 weeks and we would be at town meeting. Yeah, at special town meeting.
But so if we were in negotiation with the landowner, is that right of first refusal? I mean, does that have to be, is there any leeway in that? If we were in negotiation with the landowner?
Which landowner?
So this is a separate landowner?
This is separate.
All right,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. This is the right to purchase the property from the trust.
Right.
A couple of months ago.
Yeah, okay. Well, as I said, we could hold a special town meeting.
Yeah. Or perhaps the landowner for the 5-acre parcel would offer us another 2 weeks. If we get to that point, we can ask. Not Mike, though. Yeah, right. Okay, right. Yeah, that's right. You'll be on the road again. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Jeff. And Mike. We're now at discussion of the animal bylaw and enforcement thereof. So this comes up following an incident, 3-4 weeks ago at Pipe Stave, or actually down by Mill Pond, where somebody with 2 dogs that should have been out of their control but were not, harassed a group of runners and bit one of them, a group of high school cross-country runners who were there for a captain's practice, which is a sort of a summer practice organized by the captain of the team, and bit one of them pretty significantly, significantly enough that they went to the emergency room and are currently undergoing the regimen of rabies preventative shots because they were unable to locate the owner of the dog and have to make the assumption, because they don't know for sure, have to make the assumption that the dog was not up to date on its rabies shots. So I guess with that context, what should we or can we do to prevent that type of incident from happening again in the future, or to minimize the possibility. And,
Ryan Goodwin from the Mill Pond Committee.
hi, Ryan.
I went to their meeting and we discussed it. I also went to the Open Space Committee meeting and reached out to the Concom, so perhaps he can start us off.
So, yeah, we received notice right prior to our last scheduled Mill Pond meeting, which was on July 14th, a week and a half ago. And these incident reports happen occasionally, you know, and this one, you know, I think not that that any of them are, I wouldn't downplay any of the other incidents that have happened over the 8 years that I've been on the Mill Pond Committee. This one, I think, had a little more gravitas because it was a job. Right, and so here we have, you know, high school runners that are out there. Dogs are actually chasing them, you know, and beating them. And so, you know, we, you know, prior to the meeting, connected with Angus in regarding to understanding the town bylaws, how those differ from the Mill Pond Management Plan, which also has rulings in there for animal control. And it's, you know, it's unfortunate, right? You know, and I think, you know, the difficulty is, and where we want to kind of take a measured thinking about this is that, you know, this may be, you know, a little weird analogy or analogous, but nobody writes a letter, you know, thanking you for getting your flight on time, right? It's only when the flight's not on time that you know, that the airlines hear about it. And I know it sounds like a weird analogy, but we have hundreds of people who utilize Mill Pond almost on a daily basis, and the likelihood of, you know, of these incidents happening are actually quite remote. You know, if you think of it like a parking lot, you know, you put a lot of cars together, you're gonna have, you know, a higher incidence of accidents, but most of us drive in the parking lots on every single day without any incident happening. But then again, you know, we do recognize that that some people are not abiding by the rules, you know, and whether that is a lack of knowledge of the rules, a lack of caring, a lack of, it's never going to happen to me, we're not really sure, right? But, you know, I could tell you hundreds of stories where I'm out there every single day of walking my dog, and I'll see another owner, it's like, hey, is your dog friendly? Is my dog friendly? And most people are respectful and abiding by common sense and, you know, and safety. And I was like, oh, my dog's, you know, you want me to leash my dog? And like, those conversations are happening on a daily basis out there. We just don't get letters about those types of, you know, those courtesies and, you know, things that are happening. And I think, you know, where the difficulty is the current town bylaw is a little bit arbitrary, right? You know, either the dog has to be on a leash or under control. And under control can mean different things to different people. Under immediate control, right? And Mike has his opinion on what that means, and other lawyers have other opinions on what that means. You know, if I brought my dog here today, I could place him in the corner 10 feet away, he's under effective control. Immediate control, maybe not. But, you know, and another dog could be sitting right beside his owner, be not under control whatsoever. Right? And I think that's the difficulty in the way that the bylaw is currently written. And so the difficulty in enforcing that is I think twofold. One, it's a bit arbitrary, but two, the other component is how do you enforce it? And most of the dog walking occurs within 5 minutes outside of purview or outside of view. It's on the trail activity that's happening in and around the pond, and there's really no way that we can go out, you know, either as, you know, as a law enforcement and or as a Mill Pond Committee to try and enforce those rules. And so it all goes on the scale. Right? It's like, well, we actually have very low incidence of this. The difficulty of enforcing this prevents, you know, some, you know, making arbitrary rulings. It's a tough situation. And so I really appreciated Selectwoman Reed attending our meeting the other day, and I think that we had very fruitful discussion and good dialogue in and around on ways that we could help potentially mitigate some of this. And I think it's twofold. One is to provide better knowledge base, you know, better signage. You know, we have these two wooden boards that are out there, we have some trail maps on there, things get taken down, things get weathered, people put things on there, but there is a way that we could affix permanent signage. And there is some signage as you drive into Mill Pond that says this, because going past it in a moving vehicle. So, reading, all of these words is a difference. But to place it more securely in the parking lot, I think would be a good reminder of what the town bylaws are and what's expected of dog owners going in there. The other idea that may be kind of a measured step is to increase that area of leash dogs, wherein most, a lot of the incidents that we have heard of over the 8 years happen in and around where people are congregating together. Once people are out on the trails, there's less likelihood of that happening. But everyone comes back to that one.
Say that again, Ryan, I didn't catch it. What do you increase what?
Increased incidents of malfeasance of people not abiding by their dogs or not controlling their dogs.
I think what were you talking about? I think you were talking about increasing the area.
Increasing the area of the leashed area, such that.
Okay.
Most of the people are getting their dogs in and out of the cars. That's where we're seeing. Think of it like a bullseye. If you were to put the bullseye on the parking lot, and you have areas as you proceed farther out, around Mill Pond's environs, we have less intersection of dogs coming together like that. I'll be out on the trail some days and I'll see one person out there, right? But in the parking lot, I'll run into 3 or 4 people, right, with their dogs. And so if we can increase the area where dogs are on leash, that might help, mitigate some of these activities as well. And it's unfortunate because we have hundreds of our citizens who really value the freedom that Mill Pond gives them, and being able to walk their dog off leash and let them have the smells, etc. And so, I totally feel for this family and this kid and this incident that's happened, but I don't want to take the corporal punishment, activity about this. I don't want to take it because we've had one car accident that we limit everybody else's, ability to drive. I think that's.
So, in the past, I have to say this has been one of my bugaboos, because I'm sort of more control your dogs, and people say their dogs are under control, and they're actually not. But we got, we finally got that at least, I guess I want to know is, the people that are using the Mill Pond area and also down around the Moulton Street Reservoir, because we allow dogs off, professional dog walkers from other communities bring their dogs to West Newbury because no one else gives them that freedom. And I just wonder if that is still happening to the extent it was maybe 5 or 6 years ago.
Archie, I'm not out there, inventorying, the people who come to the thing. I think that for the most part, people are out there walking their dogs and utilizing the recreational area for what it was intended.
Actually, we did amend the bylaw that says that anyone who has 4 or more dogs, they must be on a leash.
Right, but 4 was the limit, yeah.
4 or more.
Yeah.
So if you have 3, that doesn't apply. If you have 4,
correct, but usually the professional dog walkers might have 7 or something. Yeah.
They all should be on leashes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Archie, I don't see people out there walking 7 dogs.
That's what I'm asking. Yeah. Okay.
No, I don't see that. I don't see those activities happening.
Yeah. I don't go out to Mill Pond a whole lot, but I've enough times have been riding through there or walking, riding on a mountain bike or walking through there, and I've never seen a group of dogs like that. I mean, I've seen 2 or 3 people walking and 2 to 4 dogs, but there were multiple people, and I'm assuming that they were all, I don't stop and inventory who they are or ask who they are, but
Yeah, Ryan, the one comment that I've heard from several people that I've talked to since then is that, yes, you only hear about the bad incidents, but there are a significant number of people who no longer go to Mill Pond because either they're afraid of dogs or they don't want to be in that environment. So I think we need to be mindful of that. That doesn't get reported either, and I don't know how to quantify that,
No,
but
maybe
it is something that's happening. And so,
Under the current mill pond regulations, aren't they all supposed to be leased in the parking lot?
They are.
yeah, so that's the thing, if we expand the area, it's still happening where they're supposed to be leashed anyway, right? I think people get out of the car, don't have the leash on, and they think it's just a short hop over to where they can be off leash, so is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, I think that could help, help. I think people, one, you don't have your dog leashed in the car, because that's a little bit of a danger, right? You have your dog leashed in the car, so you let your dog out, and then, when I leash mine up, and again, as we get the trails, I let it go.
So at the moment, it's just the parking lot by the parking lot, I mean, by the
The
building?
common areas too, right, down by
Yeah,
the
we
dock?
have multiple parking lots. We have the lower one by the.
No, but that's what I mean, the lower one, just on the parking lot, is that the existing rule?
Yes,
Okay.
no, and the middle lot. And the middle lot, so you have the middle lot by the butterfly field.
Okay,
And the
yeah.
horse rings, the lower lot by the, that's why I said we have multiple lots.
Okay.
But I thought around the dock area, they were also
They are.
supposed to be.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, in the parking areas.
Okay.
So how far, so if we were to follow that line of thought, how far out do you think, how big should the bullseye be?
Yeah, I
That's a
think
good
it's gonna be
question,
a little bit of trial and error, but I think that as, personally, and what the Mill Pond Committee discussed on the 14th would be push that beyond, so on the lower lot, push it past the dog waiting area, right? To the dog waiting area rather, because that's where people let their dogs off and horses to go into the water. And then in the middle lot to the actually edge of the woods, away from that the butterfly field and the horse field, and push it into the edge of the woods.
Yeah, so essentially, if you're within sight of the parking lot, you have to be on leash.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good assumption.
But still, we get back to the education piece, how are we gonna make people aware of that, and how are we gonna enforce it?
Yeah, well, I think we need to make, better signage. I think we need to, put better information, and I think that when we also discussed this at the meeting Monday, that we talked about maybe, increasing some enforcement in there to remind people, if we put a presence in there. Much like, putting a cop car on the side of the road slows drivers down, right? I think that if we were to tackle this, we don't have to go 100% in one direction, but if we make, an increase of 5% here, 5% here, 5% there, in terms of knowledge base, enforcement, and possibly, reducing the area in which we're having those intersections of people without leashes on. If we push on each one of those doors, we might get, the tangible number where we can, mitigate this down statistically.
What do you think about the idea of modifying the bylaw so that it's clearer about what intermediate control means? Is there any benefit to doing that?
I think the real difficulty with that is that it's going to be difficult to enforce regardless, right? And so just the whole purview of our animal control officer is not a licensed, officer, So they actually, if they went up to you and said, hey, give me your name, to any of you, you could go, hell with you, and walk off, and there's really no recourse for that person to be able to do it. They cannot stop you, detain you. They are not a licensed officer. And so, and then it's a shared services model, if I remember correctly, and it's with the town of Newbury.
Right.
So the likelihood of being able to get them in besides their other duties, in which they're actually, some real things they have to deal with, we're probably struggling with their availability of time. Then, the minute you're out of sight, it's really difficult to probably enforce any of these amendments of the bylaw. So we could go through this exercise, do that, define what immediate control is, but how are you actually going to really make impact on being able to enforce that?
Well, I think it's more of the education piece I'm speaking of. I mentioned the Mass State DCR has gone through and defined exactly what that means, maybe just to educate people that yelling my dog's friendly does not mean the dog's under control,
Also doesn't necessarily mean the dog's friendly.
Right, exactly.
Does your dog bite? Does not my dog.
Also be aware that under the Town Manager Act, the Select Board has the authority to issue directives or rulings and interpretations of the town bylaw. So without having to go to town meeting and amend the bylaw, you could very theoretically, basically interpret that.
So would that be a directive or an interpretation?
Well, I'd have to take a look at how to put it.
And
I usually think it's an interpretation.
Yeah.
And the Mill Pond Committee, just as you attended, would be against that. And we would request at that point that it would go to town meeting so that it could be, so that the citizens could weigh in on how they felt about that.
I'm just clarifying what the language means?
If you were to amend issue a directive on what immediate control would mean, you could issue a directive saying all dog, immediate control means on leash.
No, they're saying, unless invited, don't allow your dog, even if friendly, to approach other people or dogs, keep your dog under effective control, make sure they do not engage in aggressive behavior. It's just a little bit more than immediate control.
Yeah.
That's just an example. I'm not talking about changing the intent of the bylaw, more just, explaining what it means.
It's hard to it's hard to like comment on a hypothetical bylaw that doesn't exist. Or directive that doesn't exist.
Yeah. I feel like we do need to do something, because, this is pretty serious in terms, if that had been a 4-year-old, that would have been bit in the face, right?
Well, I don't think whether it's a high school or an old person or a 4-year-old that the gravitas of the incident changes, right? And so I think that they're all, I think that rose to why it was the #1 item on our agenda for that meeting.
Yeah.
And I think that, it's something that I think we could tackle in a measured way and be smart about it and not try and legislate unenforceable bylaws.
But this you're talking strictly about the Mill Pond, but the town has other properties, other responsibilities too.
Right, I'm here to represent Mill Pond.
Right, exactly. But I think of so many, because that's one of my running areas, I always see what's going on around Moulton Street, down the reservoir. That's another place where people bring their dogs to. Unfortunately, they don't pay any attention to the signs. They say they're under control, and they throw tennis balls in the reservoir so the dogs can cool off in the summer. And there's no one. I tell people to stop, and they tell me, "Who the hell are you?" And there is we don't have power of enforcement, but I think that we have to have a little bit more education, and I hate to keep putting up signs, but people just, they do what they can get away with. I'm not always so believing of people when they tell me their dog is. I've been chased running by dogs around Moulton Street more than once. So to say that it doesn't happen at Mill Pond, I don't believe it. I believe it. People walking down around Bridge Street. I believe that people, when the dogs are not leashed and people say they're under control, they're not all under control. I just don't believe that. And I think that we should control that more.
Well, I'm not to be contentious, but who's saying that this doesn't happen? I don't think that anyone's uttered that here.
Well, you kind of downplayed it, Ryan. You did.
No, I think that these are incidents that happen. I think that they are isolated incidents against the volume of people that actually.
They're isolated because they don't get in the media, but they happen all the time.
I'm not sure I agree.
Okay.
I think on any given day that you could go there, the majority of people exercise responsibility and courtesy in and around the Long Residence. And I'm there almost every day.
So when you, at the meeting, you had pulled up the Mill Pond Management Plan, and it seemed like it was a little bit different than the bylaw.
Yeah, let me reference it here as well. And
or it's more
I'm not
specific.
wearing my glasses, so I apologize. Yeah, so it is on page 8, item 9. All dogs must be leashed in all parking areas, roadways, picnic areas, docking, boat ramp, and launch area in and around the Mill Pond building. Please pick up after your dog. Dogs must not be allowed to approach other visitors unless invited to do so, or chase or harass people, dogs, wildlife, etc. Should not be swimming in the pond. Dogs should not be washed in the pond.
So that's more in line with the DCR thing. It's just more specific. So that's already on the books from Mill Pond, but I don't think, I mean, even at that meeting, most of the Mill Pond members didn't realize that that was the requirement, so.
I think, you know, the takeaway for most members is that dogs are supposed to be leashed in the areas of high, you know, areas where you're intersecting with others, right? You should have it leashed coming out of the, you know, out of your vehicle. But I think, you know, increased signage, reminding people, you know, what the rules are. You know, we could place, you know, notices on the town website, you know, to increase knowledge base in and around it. But I think that putting up more, you know, I hate more signage too. You know, it goes against what Mill Pond's about, Archie, right?
I know,
You know, I'm with you.
it starts to look like the parking lot in
Do this, don't
Newbury.
do this, don't do this, don't do this, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to imagine how would we use signage to better define a boundary, you know, within which you can't have a dog off leash.
Well, there's two gates, right? We have gates at the very, by the butterfly field. We could put a sign on the gate, you know, dogs are welcome to be off leash after this area, you know, and on the flip side of that gate, you know, have the return, you know, dogs are required to be on leash following, you know, after this area, you know, to the parking lot. And I think the other one is to use those, I actually don't know what they're called, our wooden structures that we post signage on.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Gazebo,
maybe.
you know, to put larger signage on there to remind people, because I think people do stop and look at those because you're on foot. Driving past them, I think, you know, it is less of an effect. So, but I think there's opportunities to educate the public in a number of different communication channels, right? We can utilize the town, we can utilize, you know, social media, we can put up, you know, some additional signage and help remind people that this isn't, you know, an issue of safety.
Yeah.
We've had, you know, incidents of dog bites in the area, you know, please, we ask that you reminded that you do respect, you know, the leash laws here.
Ryan, I'm just throwing this out, do you think it would be helpful that a cruiser went down to like the butterfly field area, you know, once in a while?
Yeah, no, that's right.
Or is that creating the opposite, you know, we want it to be a recreation area, we want it to be a police state, so what's your thinking on that? I don't know.
Well, I guess I wonder if that would really have any impact. I mean, that's gonna cover, you know, 1/100th of 1% of the time.
Exactly, but you have to do something.
But I think that's you know, it's a win by marginal gains, right? You know, it's sometimes, you know, if you can increase 1% win here, 1% there, 1% win here, it's how the British, you know, it's how you win a cycling race, right? It's like if I can draft 1% better, if I can do hills 1% better, if I can, you know, if I can recruit my rest and recovery 1% better, all of a sudden you're the British cycling team, you've won every Tour de France, it's, you know, thing. And I think that we can increase marginal gains on a number of different areas, like within enforcement, within education, within our communication outreach, right? I think that we could end up with a deal. That's, you know, we don't want kids bit there. You know, we don't want anybody bit there. You know, we also, you know, want to enjoy the freedoms of, you know, that the area provides. And again, you know, I do think that this warrants discussion and consideration, but, you know, I don't think that we should be, you know, draconian in casting down new rules or you know, restrictions on these incidents. You know, I think we could make improvements in other ways. That was the general feeling of the committee.
Yeah, I guess my concern is just that if the rules were being followed, this wouldn't have happened. So it's, you know, clearly we have the leash law in effect, you know, on the bylaw, we have the rules in the Mill Pond management plan, and it's not working. So
that's the difficult thing, Wendy. Yeah. Like, you know, the laws are out there for driving vehicles, right? But people drink to drive.
Yeah.
Everyone knows you're not supposed to be able to, you know, you're not to drink and drive. But there's going to be people out there who even though if we do these things, are not going to abide. And I think, you know, we're seeing a sense right now societally of a sense of entitlement, right? And you know, a little bit of partisanship on rules against, you know, freedom, etc. And, you know, so it's difficult. There's always going to be an element of people who the rules don't apply to. I'm going to park in a handicapped space. I'm going to park next to a fire hydrant. And I don't know what the solution is other than increasing some enforcement, increasing education, you know. And the police can levy fines, you know, they can put fines out there against the town bylaws and then issue a citation. It's just, you know, at that point, when they appeal that citation, they're going to be in front of you. As a, you know, that's what the animal control officer did. They could appeal to the board of selectmen on the citation.
Yeah. It's criminal.
Okay.
Goes to the court.
Angus, did we discuss something similar?
I thought it did provide for an appeal to the board, but Mike would know better.
No, we check.
Right, and so I think that's, you know, that's another consideration that you should put on the scale as well. It's like, you want your time occupied with, you know, with that type of,
Well, if it gets people's attention, then yeah.
Yeah, maybe so, you know, maybe it only takes, you know, a little bit of, you know, a few of us.
Yeah, I don't think it's possible to get to a point where there's zero risk. You know, zero people breaking the rules and zero risk. And it's, you know, I think what you have to do is just drop the risk to an acceptable, and hard for me to say exactly what's acceptable right now, but to an acceptable level. You know, I'm not sure if the incident that happened, you know, 2-3 weeks ago was an outlier, or if it actually happens more frequently, maybe not quite that severely, but sometimes that severely, and we just don't hear about it. But you know, certainly moving the end of absolute control of your dog, meaning the dog's on a leash, you have control, that outside of the area where there's less activity is going to reduce the overall risk, because, you know, dogs get wound up when there's a lot more activity, a lot more people, a lot more other dogs get more wound up. And, you know, I can understand how when you get farther out, you know, the dogs are going to be less distracted by a lot of activity and less wound up and less likely to do things that aren't good. And, you know, I go back to, I don't think we can make it zero risk. Even if we have a rule that says everybody in Pipe State who has a dog has to have it on leash all the time, many people, as soon as they get out of sight, are going to take the dog off the leash.
I think we need to enforce what's on the books right now, and I'm just not sure the best way to do that.
I don't know if we have
Angus, do you know what, if we wanted to ask the animal control officer to actually get out of their car and take a short loop through, I mean, is that something that can be done under the current contract?
Yeah, definitely. Okay. I mean, you know, how often that individual is doing the patrols and how, you know, we need to look at
the cost.
Well, not the cost, it's all covered. It's just a matter of, you know, with the other responsibilities that person has in Newbury Port and what they do here. I don't know how many times a week they're here, but certainly we can add that to their, you know, to their regular routine.
Yeah, definitely. I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, you know, pushing on that door, pushing on education, pushing on communication.
I think
one thing we saw.
Did they wear a uniform?
Yes. Yeah, and it's a nice, you know, it's a marked vehicle.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's a marked vehicle, but, you know, we saw that with the harbor master, where just, you know, we heard from residents, just that presence on the river of an enforcement boat had an effect.
Yeah.
You know, because people become aware that might happen, and so I think that's a good
I think that's a good idea, even just a token presence once in a while.
Yeah, we agree. I think that would be helpful.
Just to briefly clarify the earlier point that came up on appeals, the first 4 sections of the animal bylaw are appealable to this board, but this section 5 falls after that. And Mike is right. It references the non-criminal disposition, so that would be a ticket that's appealable to the court. So that's why there was some confusion there. Like, let's say there was a dangerous dog hearing, that would go to this board, but
Or nuisance dog.
Yeah, or nuisance dog, but the restraint of dogs is a ticket.
And that's section 5, you're saying?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so is that something should that be coordinated with Chief?
Yeah, I have, I've been keeping him apprised of this, we talked about it a couple of times, and I had suggested that, depending on how things went, that we set up a time to meet, with the animal control officer, and, help make sure she understands the community's objectives, and, I'm sure they can increase the level of visibility.
So, it'd be interesting to see, I mean, does the animal control officer actually get out of the car and walk around?
My guess is probably not, but that's something we can definitely work on.
Ryan, if that was if they agreed to do that, what would your recommendation, what day of the week and what time would be the most propitious one to do?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've gone past on mornings when it's like snowy, sleet, rain, and seeing 10 cars out there. And I've gone out there on sunny days and there's less. It's a little hit or miss, but I would tell you that Saturday and Sunday mornings are traditionally busy. I'm not sure what the animal control officer's working hours are, but those are when people have free time and the ability to kind of get out there for a longer walk before they begin their work day.
I would say at least for the rest of the summer when the cross-country teams are practicing would be a good target time. Because I did hear, of other people who had similar incidents.
Well, you mean runners in particular?
Yeah.
So, I mean.
I was a biker, right? I referenced it earlier, and I remember growing up riding my bike down the streets and having a dog tear ass out of its car, chasing me down the street, and it was terrifying.
Yeah, I got a scar on my calf from when I was a paper boy, 10 years old.
Yeah.
He's holding.
Yeah. There were certain houses you left to pick at the end of the driveway.
Yeah, right.
So is there anything that you would need from us in order to help in your education effort, or?
No, what I would propose is that, we have our, I don't have committed to memory, but we already have our next Mill Pond date scheduled, so let me take, the questions and the dialogue and discussion that's happened here today. I think this is great, right? We're all trying to solve the problem, we're all trying to put our heads together. And I will go back to Mill Pond, say, they would like us to pursue this idea a little bit further, and then, after that meeting, get on another agenda item for recommendations.
I'd be really interested in, in hearing your thoughts, hearing proposed ways to use signage and how to define a boundary beyond, within which leashes are mandated.
Yeah.
I think that would have a big effect.
Yeah, I agree. No, I think it can only help, potentially. Yeah. This is, I don't have a crystal ball. I can't predict, what a crazy dog's gonna do.
Right.
But, I think that if we can, look, if I put less cars on the road, we're gonna have less incident accidents, right? So if I put less, dogs in a certain area, off leash or that have freedom to roam, I think we're gonna statistically reduce the number of those types of incidents. That's my kind of common sense thought, but I don't have science, I haven't done a regression analysis.
Yeah, right. Right.
So I just have one last question. I mean, what would you think about designated just a trail at Mill Pond to be no dogs? So that people that are afraid of dogs or have small children would feel comfortable. Because I don't want residents to miss out on the opportunity of enjoying Mill Pond.
Yeah, that's interesting. Let me bring it back to
that's actually particularly relevant, I guess, if we're going to have
Wendy, that's a good idea.
The new all-persons trail, or the all-persons trail that's, which of course is coincident where, with access to water and, so that's going to be pushback on that idea, but, there's a place where, that's an area open to everybody. That's the most scenic part, arguably, of Mill Pond that may get the most usage.
Well, as an aside, we are actually on a project right now creating a new trail numbering system as a safety issue. A couple of years ago out in Riverbend, somebody had fallen and hurt themselves, and that's not in our purview, but we took the learnings from that, and that they didn't have ability to actually tell EMTs where they were. And so what we wanted to do, and we've been working on slowly with Deb Hamilton and a few members of our community, is a numbering system at every single intersection. So you could say I'm on the green trail between post 7 and post 8, right, and something like that. And so before we actually proceed with that project, if we did want to consider designating a trail as pedestrian only, we could actually add that to that signage that we're looking at as well. That's an interesting idea.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, really appreciate allowing us to, to present our discussion to you as well. And as a personal note, I wish you Godspeed in your future endeavors. You've been a great partner to us, right?
Thank you.
So, thanks.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
I don't know what others in the audience or remote are here for, but I do want to just be mindful of Wayne's time, and at some point, when the time is right, we can take up his issues.
Yeah, so,
Which ones?
let me see, which,
That's
we
what
got,
you want to ask about. Certainly,
town mailbox policy is probably
Mailbox
one.
policy, he's gonna give an update on the bid paving, timeline, what to expect there. BBED, GG.
Well, why don't we, Wayne, why don't we take everything,
I don't know if there's others that are also
Okay.
waiting, so I don't want him to cut in line, but I just wanted to make that point.
let's see,
Well, can we check
Ann
in?
Bardine there, what's Ann Bardine on for? Well, hi Ann, if you can hear us.
And Jean Lambert?
Jean Lambert, yeah. Okay, well, absent any comment, sir, you,
Mailbox.
okay. Okay, well, that's one that Wayne probably has, some interest in as well. And Elsa, right?
I think because I stirred up the mess and I felt it was pretty rotten to just walk away when you guys came up.
Well, great.
So moral
Well,
support,
thanks-
is that right?
Yeah, but thanks for coming back. Okay, well, seeing as we don't know the other two folks on the line, that we don't know what their topics are, and they may not hear us right now. Why don't we start with the mailbox? We'll jump to the mailbox policy.
Okay, so we can come back to items K and L and M and skip to item N. So what you have in front of you is the same policy that had been adopted in the last town I worked in.
Page what?
Page 60 of your packet. The only change I made was, since my understanding of the discussion 2 weeks ago was that you hadn't specifically talked about the reimbursement of costs, but that is something the board had talked about back in early 2019. I did go ahead and put that into this policy for discussion, so I think a good starting point for discussion, and whatever changes you may want to make or adopt something, I do think it will be good for all parties to have something in writing that's clear that we can just follow.
Yeah, okay. Well, I have, actually about having the reimbursement rate in there, I highlighted this, because the number is 85. I know thought I'd heard a number 50 at one point. I know I'd heard a number 50 at one point. And maybe we talked about 85, but I don't recall that, so I was just curious.
I like 50 because I did my checking on Home Depot, and you can get a post and a mailbox. Not a great one, but you put the cheapo post with the cheapo mailbox, and you do it for $35. So I like 50.
And then next year when it gets knocked down, you pay again,
Why is it going to get knocked down again?
because it's a cheap old mailbox.
Well, that's life. I mean, you have a window that a rock goes through it. You have to get it fixed again. I can't help that. Now, hopefully it doesn't.
So Angus, do you remember that 85?
I honestly don't remember. I'm sure I wouldn't have trained it up.
That's you?
That was me. That was my suggestion.
Okay.
Because my notes showed last time when I broke it up, back a couple years ago when we had this discussion, I was coming up with $72 to $78 when I did my own walk around and my post and my bracket. And my bracket was $21 for the little 2L brackets plus the pole, and the pole price probably has tripled in the last 6 months. So I put it up to 85 and 50. So I came up with my notes that I had last 2.5 years ago, which I started at 100. If you recall, 111 or 112, and worked our way down. But then the decision was to
So it's not a cheapo one.
Well, no, I mean, it was not the $19 one.
Right.
It was not the $55 one. I was
Yeah.
trying to find the one that I would put in my house,
Yeah.
which was metal.
Mm-hmm.
The plastic one is 18, the metal one was 26. So I was going with the metal one because the plastic one is the El Cheapo Special.
Yeah.
And the flag doesn't stay up.
Yeah.
And I wanted to take it off.
Yeah.
So I was looking for the real one that, but not the Cadillac, because they had $80 metal ones that were like over the top. So I went.
Well, if it's the one you would put at your house, I think that's the reason.
It's the one I think I could take a couple of hits and snow. So.
Okay. So that was the only change, Angus, adding the cost part of it?
Yep.
From what you had
and then,
used before?
I just, there had been a section of Maine General Law and then fixed objects, and I ran this through Mike and Wayne, and Mike had directed me to the Mass General Law citation you have in there regarding encroachments, so it's on page 61 regarding MGL Chapter 86, Section 3. So yeah, just trying to basically take it and put it into them. So
Which page are you on now?
This bold-faced in the main policy, and because there was specific language up there on deadly fixed objects, so I put in, I wanted some statutory
Just a reference, yeah.
framework. It's not quite as clear down here as it was up there. But it does refer to encroachments.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In situations where, particularly if there's recurring damage, I don't know how many places there are recurring damaged mailboxes, but it seems to me that we somehow ought to address that by recommending to people they move their mailbox further back from the road. If somebody's lost their mailbox 2 or 3 times, and
Mine has gone down 2 or 3 times, but that's life.
It is tough because sometimes you are limited on how far you go out. There's a swale there.
Yeah.
So if you got a swale on your home, you can't go on the other side of the swale, obviously, because you won't get your mail. And then if you put it on the inside of the swale, the roadside, it's against it's near the edge of the road.
Yeah.
And so it's a challenge, and we try to remind our drivers, this is a challenge. And if we're paying people for their mailboxes 3 times in 1 year, then I'm going to be upset.
Right.
And I'm going to be screaming and yelling at the contractor or the town guy who's knocking it down. There is times that when a mailbox is taped up with wire, I would not be reversing that one because it was a fast truck driving down the road would knock that mailbox down.
Right.
But during the inspection, I've seen some that were taped on with masking tape. And I just keep driving. I can't help you with masking tape. But there's something you can see, it's a fresh hit. If it mounted correctly, you can actually see the blade of the plow scratch the side of the mailbox.
Yeah.
The town should not be striking the mailbox.
Yeah.
But snow does strike the mailbox. I can't help you with that. Snow does get the mailbox off the plow blade. But the blade should not be striking the mailbox.
I wonder how Velcro works.
I think it's pressing to try that.
Well, I think a fair amount of thought has been put into this, and we're not going to ever solve the problem of never having damaged mailboxes. Obviously, we should do what we can to try to minimize it, and I think we should just adopt the policy that's been proposed here and run with it.
What would be the appropriate way to communicate this to the public so that as new people move in and install a mailbox, they know if they put a $500 granite mailbox in that they're on their own? This is a policy, that's great, but I think communicating it would be helpful. I'm just not sure what the appropriate way to do that is.
Okay. We could put it on the town website, but the question is, how do you get people to look at, number one, look at the town website, number two, look at whatever section on the town, we don't want this to be on the home page forever.
Yeah, I think the assessor has like a welcome packet. Is it appropriate maybe to just put a notice in there?
That makes sense, that would make sense. Yeah.
Okay.
So I didn't realize that
Good.
that the assessor did have a
Mailbox specifications are really good reading.
You should know, though, that the statutory reference basically gives the town the ability to, order people to remove encroachments in the public way. And so if you have somebody who's insisting on putting their mailbox in such a location that it's going to be constantly, torn down,
You tell them to move it.
you have authority.
Well, that was kind of where I was going with, when there's somebody who loses their mailbox multiple times, there's got to be a reason, and reason probably is that it's poorly placed. Either that or poorly structured.
Or it could be at a bad turn in the road that allows them difficulty. I mean, I think the fact that the DPW director has sole discretion is going to weed out those kinds of situations.
Yeah.
So.
When I first moved to town, like every other year, my mailbox was wiped out. It was a cheapo plastic one. It was far enough back from the street, but the weight of the snow, I never really looked. I don't think it was hit by a snowplow, but I think the weight of it was, pushed it over. And, I was connected and several times.
Did you have comments that you wanted to share? Just listening?
New neighbors, I'm on Donovan Drive, and Wayne is, a couple of years ago, we had our own snow emergency with valve back there, and it did take up a mailbox. Its velocity, it's not always the turn. If you're looking at Stewart Street coming from 113 going towards Middle, you're going at the proper rate of speed with all the snow. If it's not mounted right, if it's not mounted well, they take hits. I've seen really decent drivers and as she said, watch the snow topple. And there was nothing that could have been done. It was in the right place. The post office provides in their postal bulletin, which is a free publication published every 2 weeks, provides specifications for mailbox placement, whether it's single post, whether it's a bank of them, how far back from the curb and everything that they have to be for the convenience of their drivers and safety of their drivers. And there are, I don't know, probably a dozen places in town that I'm aware of where the boxes are too close to the road. Literally, if their flaps were open, you could strike them with the mirror of your car, and you're in your lane. So it's more of a, you could probably identify the 25 outliers and say, we really need to talk. You never had damage, great for you, but we'd like to move it back. And as Mike said, you have the authority to say, we're suggesting that you move it back before we have to do it. But you can do it with the post office and consultation. Really easy. So that you can avoid, paying multiples for damaged mailbox. Just remediate the ones that are the outliers and make it narrower. Again, back to the Middle Pond thing. Just go for that 1%. You'd be amazed at the satisfaction you get out of that. That's all I have.
Okay, thanks.
You live on Stewart Street?
Donovan.
Oh, Donovan. Okay.
Which is off of Stewart Street.
Okay.
I'm at the end of the cul-de-sac there on Marcos.
Okay. When Wayne gets to the bid paving, I believe Stewart Street is on the list. So you know that's going to be paved.
We're fortunate. We have a nice section, Stewart and everything, a nice section in town compared to some other areas. So whatever you're doing, we're great. Thank you. Not asking for more.
Great. All right. I would move that we. What's the proper verb? Adopt the mailbox policy for the town of West Newbury as proposed on July 24th, 2021.
Second.
Any further discussion?
I'm going to vote no because I think 85 is too much.
Okay. Do you want to propose, to amend the motion and see if it's accepted, or?
Well, I don't know if you'll accept it. I'm gonna say $50, but that's what.
I think we ought to go with our DPW director's assessment. It's his line of work, so that's my thinking.
I think I agree with Wendy. I think this is good. And hopefully, where there are recurring, if there are recurring claims, then we address that by fixing the location or fixing the installation. So, did you second or not? I'll second.
I
did
second.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Okay. Thanks.
So we'll put that together for your signatures, and once it's signed, we'll post to the website, do a news announcement on that.
Oh, good.
Great. Thanks.
It's all important.
Well, with any luck, by putting the time in now, we don't have to put the time in again.
Well, I realized that last time I was here, and you were talking about where to put signs in town, and I went, well, yeah, if they just said, hey, this is the way it is, then this is the way it is, and you don't have to like.
Right, keep
Listen
revisiting,
to
yeah.
them, keep going on.
Thanks, have a good night.
Good night.
Okay, next topic that's relevant to Wayne is, I guess we're down to the
double
town
digits.
manager updates. Yeah, so Wayne, is X's update on stormwater bylaw, Y is Mill Street Bridge, are those relevant? And from your standpoint right now, are those relevant in the conversation?
It's just, so this was on the meeting 2 weeks ago, but where I wasn't present, I think it was passed over, so it's just informational that it's been circulated to various boards, and I do know that both Board of Health and Planning at least, I think probably Conservation as well, have put it on their agenda, so I know Leah's putting together comments for the Planning Board's review of the stormwater bylaws, so we're trying to get that, get some input so we can hopefully be in a position to, propose something and have a public hearing timely for the fall.
So that's the stormwater bylaw you're talking about, and that's essentially the update there, so that's, so.
Yeah, we did actually, Wayne is our deputy ADA administrator, so he's had some involvement while Sam was the lead, but on item W, again, just informational, as you know, we got the report, the 3 reminder, copies for each of you, and so Sam's been working with Wayne and myself on identifying the improvements that can be built into the work plan and to the extent needed built into future spending proposals, but at this point there's a lot of low-hanging fruit, and I think the total financial exposure was on the order of 55.
Yeah, it's not a huge number actually.
We actually came out with a pretty
How much?
bill of health, like 53,000 roughly.
Oh, that's not much at all.
Yeah, there was nothing that was like, I think there was a ramp at the old town hall or the town hall.
Already.
Right, so.
You have that already?
Yes. Yeah, because of the library project.
I knew that would come in handy.
Is this a reuse?
Yep, well, it was never installed.
Still yeah, by the time the brakes got pumped on that, it had already been.
Oh, wow, cool. Well, all right. So that's a win. That's an absolute win.
Which we recognized during the town hall renovation CPC grant request. Was that in there? So that was.
Yeah, it was already part of that.
So Sam just confirmed that in the audit.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. That's good.
Those items are just informational. Item Y, I'll speak to that, we can supplement if you'd like, but as you know, from the materials, the engineer did think that was going to be exempt from NEPA review. NEPA saw things differently, so it is, an ENF has been required, so that was submitted about a week and a half ago. So that'll go through the NEPA process. Aside from that, I did get confirmation from the city engineer about a week ago that the FY22 budget in Newburyport did not include funding for the Middle Street Bridge. That was not a surprise to us, but it was, we hadn't gotten that confirmation until pretty recently. So my recommendation on that would be, we do have the MOU with the city that goes through September 17th on paper anyway. Arguably, it's already been broken because when you read it, it does provide a responsibility to notify the other parties.
Yeah, and when I read that, so would you classify what how were you informed, Angus? I guess
well, I was informed verbally by a phone call after a number of requests over a period of time.
See, that doesn't seem like it, that even lives up to the MOU.
I agree with you on that.
Okay.
Yeah. But with that said, I mean, you know,
I bet it doesn't change the outcome, but it wasn't even like sort of friendly correspondence or anything. They should have at least said that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, as you know, I did get a note from the mayor in early May saying she didn't expect it to be part of the budget. So it's not like we were totally blindsided.
Okay.
But we did ask, you know, on a couple of occasions for notice of when it would be discussed at meetings. We never got any notice. You know, never had the opportunity to go kind of, you know, state our case. But with that said, I mean, looking forward, you know, we do have the MOU, at least on paper. It still exists till September 17th. So my recommendation would be that the board, you know, authorize or direct that a letter be sent to the council on your behalf requesting this be placed on a future, you know, a near-term agenda.
Absolutely.
6 weeks.
So what happens with money spending after September 15th?
Well, so I think, you know, we have a responsibility to notify MassWorks with our grant that the, you know, construction funding isn't going to be available on the timeline that we had initially hoped. So that's, you know, that's a conversation we'll have with them. But right now, the funding that, as a practical matter, all the funding for the last several months has come from the MassWorks grant.
Okay. No, none from the other one.
No, because the DOT Small Bridge Grant, which was $500,000, was roughly 50-50. It's like 248, 252, roughly, between design and construction. So there is about 250,000 in the city grant toward construction, which if they're not going to put additional funds, that's obviously going to be totally insufficient. So how or whether they're communicating that to DOT, we don't know. But that's part of why we'd like to get them to the table, is to make sure that they, you know, they notify DOT that they're not at least looking to go forward with the project.
Yeah.
They got a lot of money for it.
So are all design costs going to be paid for? Their part?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, their part that was eligible, which was, you know, keep in mind when they initially got the grant, Wayne was on the other side of the pond at that point, so he could tell you in detail. But I think the expectation was that the scope and cost was going to be a lot less. Mm-hmm. So at that time, it might have seemed that 250 toward construction was a pretty big chunk. As things have played out, you know, it's not that big a share.
I think we still need to get this officially. I mean, we reached out to MassWorks, it's word of mouth right now.
Right.
Generally, they call us.
Yeah.
Great, but we still don't have anything in writing to say this annual. Are they okay? So they didn't put it in the capital plans or any other funding that they would use. Mm-hmm. I assume not.
Yeah.
But
we should know.
You know, he did give me a meeting date of when it was considered, so I just need to track down those minutes in the city, and so we'll have some. But again, that I think falls short of the type of notice that we are entitled to under that MOU.
And we'll probably need that to show to MassWorks.
I mean, that was Wayne just said it. I was just thinking we have to have something formal in writing saying that there's a discordance here now. Yeah.
Yep.
It's not just us, it's the state's involved, obviously, the grants, so this is between the towns going back and forth. And we have money on the line, there's on the table right now.
Right.
That expires.
Right.
Doesn't last forever.
Is there money? Is money come out, how much money has come out of our Mass Works?
Not as much as you might think.
Yeah.
Mass Works, I think last one's 89.
So the design is biased heavily towards the Mass Dot small bridge. Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think we had a balance of 885. Last one, right? 785.
I just signed it last week.
I know, that's
I don't remember, there's so much.
Angus, you gave me a number of
Yeah,
about 100 had been spent.
Then that's the right number, because at that point I had it handy that I could check.
So I think it's 885 with remaining, so 115-ish.
115?
Yeah, the last invoice was, I think, $4 grand, it was pretty small.
Yeah, that's right. That's a lot of money still.
Yeah.
So what level of effort is the MEPA review gonna be? I mean, did they give you a quote for that?
No, they didn't do a change order on the, so maybe they had carried that in their permitting estimates and hoped they wouldn't need it, but they didn't seek a change order on the design contract to go forward with the new plan.
I thought we left it there when we were gonna take it out, we need to do it. I thought that was what they told us, we assumed we need all this permitting. And if they said we didn't need it, we saved money to take that out.
Okay.
We just paying it for hours, we looked at they. So I thought it was.
That would make sense, because they wouldn't have gone forward and done all that work if they didn't have a contract.
Right.
Yeah, they weren't getting money, I don't know.
Right.
So the other, portion of this discussion is the potential repair options. So I know Mike has reached out to each of you, and I believe spoke with Archie and has conversation scheduled, I believe, with the other board members. So maybe at the next meeting, once you've all talked with them, you can share your thoughts on how what you gain from that.
So just as an aside, Micah had said that the north, in other words, things are actually deteriorating on the north side, which is facing the Merrimack, as opposed to the other side where the chain link fence is, where the problems are. So I actually took a bike ride there this afternoon, and it's so there is a little bit of. I'm not an engineer, so I don't think I would have noticed it if he hadn't told me to look there, but the north side is kind of bulging out a little bit, and the big sort of capstones on the top of that go right next to the roadway, but are sort of on top of the bridge. Those have obviously separated a good inch, and these are huge stones that are 14 inches high and 6 feet long, enormous stones, and they've obviously moved a bit. So the whole thing isn't. I don't think any engineer is going to sign off that even that it's not going to deteriorate further. Basically,
you don't even need to do any
Wasn't that what
analysis.
it seemed like he felt, Wayne? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's no analysis.
Yeah.
If you need to do analysis, you have to disturb the bridge to do the analysis. You disturb the bridge and fall in.
But the point is that now you don't need an analysis because the bridge is disturbing itself.
And if you
without traffic on it.
And if you look at the south side now, I took some pictures. It's pieces have fallen in maybe from all the rain recently. I don't know, but it's more deteriorated than it was even in the spring.
And one of the just facts of all this is that because the bridge does require this Chapter 85 review by Mass DOT, and so part of what they look for is the design life to be met. And so I was looking back at some correspondence back in 2018 that referred to that issue that if repair had been feasible, that it might last, might extend the life by 10 to 15 or maybe 20 years, but it would fall well short of the I believe 75 years is the requirement that DOT would look for once you touch the bridge.
So it doesn't. And another thing I asked him about was the footings, and it's hard to know what's really down there, but he felt that it's the footings of the existing bridge are not on bedrock, so they can ultimately move.
Yep.
So the new one has to be on we'll have the pilings all the way
Good thing it's
down.
not a condo building built on it.
But you have to say, they did a pretty good job for, 150 years.
Yeah, no, it lasted a long time.
What lasts that long, then? It's pretty good, yeah.
So if the board's in agreement, we'll go ahead and draft up a letter to the city council to request item on their agenda in the near term, reminding them that the, date of effect is September 17th, and, that we all agree that whatever action they take or don't take ought to be in open session and not just have this thing wither away and then
Right.
we have to start from zero.
Yeah. And, so it'd be, if it's possible, I'm sure that some of us, if not all of us, would like to attend that city council meeting. If it's possible for that to be, in late August. I don't want to hold things up, but
We did it remotely before, but I don't think we had much. We didn't have much impact doing it remotely, unfortunately.
But I guess part of what I'm thinking about is the MOU expires the middle of September, so hopefully it's before that.
Right.
I think that's important. I mean, they've already.
I see what you're saying, so we don't have to start all over.
Right, they've already violated the terms of it, but at least if we can do it before it expires, it would be good. So, I guess what I'm saying is don't hold up for me. Because I'm not here, but I would really like to be able to sit in on that. I think we're set on that.
Yeah, BB.
Yeah, BB. Update on paving bid process and timeline.
Yep, we are, the bid will be available for, contractors to take and review as of, July 29th, I believe, at 10 o'clock. The bid due date is August 20th, 2021. We're doing, we broke Crane Neck Street up into 3 sections. We're looking to pave the 2 sections of it, which is the dead end section, and work our way towards Main Street. If we have enough money, we can go all the way to Main Street, but we have to wait for the bids. I'm hearing that the prices have come down a little bit from they were in the spring, but they're still pretty high. If they pushed and said we can't come in no matter what, we've got too much work to do, it wouldn't be the worst thing for the town, but we might save $8, $10 a ton in the spring of next year. Right now I'm hearing $97. We estimated $85 a ton.
Okay.
$97 a ton right now, which is like highway robbery.
Yeah.
Because everybody's
Good pun.
Yeah, I know. So we're looking to do Crane Neck, which within 2 sister sections of the dead end to Georgetown Road, and then from
you're going to go all the way, because before you had that broken up, that section, you had that stretch broken up into 2, but now that's 1.
I'm sorry, so it's the dead end to the top of the hill.
Yeah.
The top of the hill of Georgetown.
Okay.
And then from Georgetown
to Main Street. Right.
Which is our add-ons.
That's a lot of road.
That's a lot of street. But if we were at 8, it's so much work and it's easy paving. I was hoping when I wrote this last year, I could get it out in time. I was hoping for $80 a ton. And I was, we can maybe make that work at 80, maybe $70 a ton. We estimated on the contract at 85 to play it safe, but I'm hearing the last bids are coming at 97 to $99. So that's going to change everything. We also looked at doing town hall parking lot. That would be town money. That is not state money. Stewart Street.
Just when you say town, do you mean this building?
I'm sorry, no town hall.
Oh, the actual town hall.
We have a drainage problem there. We're flooding the farm beside the town hall with our rain. Around 95% of the stormwater is getting pulled to the back of the property of the town hall and goes into the private property owners, Wolf Corral, which is irresponsible by us, and we want to correct that. So there's some drainage
Oh, okay.
Contain the water in the parking lot, put it into some catch basins and a possible storage tank, and then send it out to Main Street into a catch basin for very lefty that we live in Mass Lefty Town, which is on that property anyhow. So that's the Main Street one. We're hoping to try to do the work this summer, drainage work. We are hoping to pay on this contract. Stewart Street, it looks okay, but it has major cracking. It's gonna fail soon. So if we don't overlay it soon, it'll become a mill and overlay, which will increase the price by 15–40%. So the streets worse in town, but I've already lost those streets. So if I get there a year or two from now, I have to do a mill and overlay anyhow.
Yep.
Stewart Street's at a point where if we wait a year or two, it will become a grinding over, it'll become a mill and overlay. So I put that, I bumped it up on the list, higher on the list, I don't want to lose it.
Yep.
Right now it's like $136,000, I want to be $215,000 if we wait a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Whetstone Street, we're looking to pave, the sections that weren't paved by the contractor, the developers who did work out there, there's a couple little sections that they paved, we can fill in the gaps in between that. Then our add-ons, if the prices come in reasonable, will be Crane Neck from Maine to Georgetown Road. But we do get replenished money in July of next year, so I put it on next year's anyhow. So we're gonna do it in the spring of, I doubt we're gonna get it done this year because it's so much work. We're gonna do it the spring of next year, or we're gonna do it the summer of next year. So we'll get the money as of July 1st, which will cover that. So it should get done. So all of Crane Neck will be overlaid by fall of next year.
So Wayne, just a general overview, when you're looking at all the roads in town, are you on like a 10-year plan, or, I mean, how do you go about determining which?
Well, I did my own audit, which I did in Newbury as a practice to see how I was at it, and they paid somebody to do it, and it came up with look like mine. But that's the whole story. So I did my own here, and I drove every street. I get out, I walk around, and I grade it to the scale of 1 to 3. Not doing a 99, a 98, a 96, an A, a D, because that don't mean anything to us. I look at the ones as being the best, 2 as being fair, 3 as being poor. Now I reevaluate all the 3s and I prioritize the 3s based on traffic volume, drainage issues, condition of road, which we don't have many. It's easy. It's not that road is in good shape. That'd be a small portion of 3s. So I took the 3s and then reevaluate the 3s. Then I drive around the truck.
Okay, and then, so it's just a matter of whatever state funding you have, then you start attacking the 3s?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thanks.
The Carlson Road? The Carlson Road?
Save your lobbying until they're
So we'll just see how the bids come in. We have a lot of interest. We have 3 vendors contact us already. 2 of them can't pay us no pre-qual. They're trying to pre-qual ahead of time. Mass Highways, terrible system to deal with contracts. But I believe there's 5 contracts interesting, which is good. If they're all in cahoots and charging $98 a piece, it doesn't matter. It's $98 but maybe if they compete against each other, we'll see some prices. So that's fun. That's good. And our roads are easy to pave. There's no curb work. There's barely any structures you have to fix. They make money when they show up. They show up at 7, they start making money at 8 o'clock in the morning. And that's pretty nice for a vendor.
Okay, thanks.
We want to speak to soldiers and sailors next. So that you have the bid timeline in your packet. Got the pre-bid meeting this Wednesday.
Hey, just one last thing. Wayne, what's the total number that you have to spend for roads at this point?
What we have right now is the contract valued at $625.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's 7 for it.
Yeah. Okay.
Mass Highway plus our money.
Yeah. Thanks.
So, there were a couple of prospective vendors who showed up this past Wednesday at the initial date, that had been in the central register for the pre-bid conference. It was then pushed back a week, and an addendum was issued, but I guess not everyone got it, so Wayne went out and met, people on Wednesday briefly and gave them a copy of the addendum with this Wednesday's, pre-bid conference. So the, general bids are due August 13th. We engaged, someone to assist with the procurement process, Mary Bolso. She specializes in this kind of work. And that's going to be a big help. I think it would have been anyway, and probably something we would have recommended anyway, but with Mike's departure, it's especially valuable to have somebody who reviews everything and makes sure it meets the specs, checks references, basically helps to manage the process, and then we make a recommendation back to the town. So that would be brought to the August 30th board meeting, and depending on whether there's a qualified vendor who's within the budget. So we'll see how that goes. Cross the fingers. Are there any questions on that one? Okay.
Nope. No, thank you.
The next one, Wayne, you want to field that one on the high hazard trees?
So I do not cover my letter with those sketch.
Yeah.
I've been looking at those trees since the day I started here, praying to God they would come back to life. Well, I must be praying to the wrong God because they got worse and worse. And they just maples, they're just done. They're at the end of their life, they're pretty old. And there was like an eyesore right now in front of town offices with their two dead trees as you drive in. So I reached out to the tree committee. I sent an email last week. He's going to assign somebody to me from the committee to help me manage trees. Maybe something a little bit bigger than the 2 1/4 inch. I mean, you don't want to spend $40,000 for 2 trees, but maybe it's worth spending $3,000 to $4,000 for something that maybe 8 inches that it can actually see growth and stuff. So I'm not looking to buy a $600 tree, but I'm going to wait 60 years for it to mature. So it looks like something. We did put aside some money this year, and this year's been a budget to replace those 2 trees.
Yeah, no twigs.
Yeah, try not, but I want to trees are costly now for some counties and trees. We'll let the tree committee give us their advice on species. Trees first.
So is it possible in some of those scenic road bylaw hearings that they have to replace trees in kind? Is it possible to get some money from that, or do you already have money budgeted?
I haven't budgeted about the tree right now. Is anybody replacing a tree in kind?
I just happened to see there was a scenic road bylaw at Plain, but I didn't read
There's one vendor, there's one resident who pulls a tree, but it's like a $600 value.
Oh, okay.
All right. A little money. Yeah. For Ash Street driveway, I believe. And I think we picked the tree out for that one.
Okay.
But that's a tool that quarter.
Yeah, that's one of the sticks.
Twig.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it'll grow.
Yeah.
In time. But again, we weren't looking at something like that here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to get the biggest that we can afford.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Yeah, hopefully, start to get big, mortality is more likely.
Well, it's nice out here, we have a water spigot out here, so we could actually water it, use that.
Next one, so farm lane, I have been in touch with the superintendent a couple of times, including, late last week and again earlier today. And, the preliminary review is, they're not really seeing that this is, a direct result of the, school project. The trees were taken out by National Grid in order to, which National Grid needed to do in order to provide power to the school. But they're not really sold on the idea that this is, the need for a guardrail is, created by the project. So, I talked to Justin, he reached out again today, we spoke again, he's kind of running it up various flagpoles. He offered to have a schedule a meeting to talk it over, and I said, if it looks like it could be fruitful, I'm all for coming to a meeting, but I think if it's just a meet to tell me no, we're not looking for extra meetings, we got a lot to do, as he does, so. But it is in process, it did get sent over, back in whenever it was, April or May, whenever we had first kind of written it up.
Process with what?
With the school, with the OPM,
Oh, okay.
And it hasn't made it to the school building committee. It wouldn't make it there unless it was, kind of recommended by the OPM as a potential project change order. And Justin said he's gonna rely on what his OPM says in terms of whether they feel it's, properly within scope for the project or not. But if not, or even if there's, let's say there's an outcome where they could offset the cost, but maybe not absorb it entirely, it's something that, our next step would be to build that into the capital program, and then it would be working with the capital committee on how to.
So who owns that strip of land? Because we talked about that earlier about putting signs there.
With the farm lane, that's town owned.
No, but the piece of dirt that inclines towards the parking lot.
We go in probably 10, 12, 14 feet, so the guardrail would be on town land. If you install a guardrail, it'd be on town property. If we're at the edge of the road, 10 feet down would almost be the whole. It's not very wide. It's interesting because we had a slope at one time. We had trees and a slope. So if you did lose control and you avoided some trees, you plow down and hit the asphalt parking lot down below. But they put retaining walls up to hold back the earth now. So now if you lose control and you drive off farm lane, you go 90 degrees and go down. That's bad.
Okay.
It's one thing to go down a hill and bang a couple of trees, which you don't want to experience that in life, but it's worse to fall 20 feet down.
Okay.
So that's when I got the email from Angus, he was about, that's a great point. Because it's different than rolling down a hill.
Okay.
And avoiding a couple of trees.
I
go, oh my God, I made it. It's like, you don't have that option. You're not going to say, oh my God, I made it.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So the new school construction changed the nature of the hazard. There was a hazard there before, but the new school construction has changed the nature of the hazard. It's increased the degree of hazard.
You would have hit a tree or three on the way down. You'd probably still be stuck up on the top getting towed out.
Right.
Now with those trees there and a cliff.
But also people walking down there too it's extremely steep, and in the winter you get killed. But now if it's actually a retaining wall, then you got a cliff. Okay.
And so are there any alternatives, or is it like full-on DOT guardrail the whole way?
That's a good question.
Safety, cheap safety.
No, I mean, are there legitimate options rather than?
They want to stop a car from rolling down the hill, it's a guardrail.
Yeah.
You can use concrete barricade, which is cheaper, usually look very ugly.
Yeah.
But that's an alternative. You can put concrete barriers for also trees, so you can also be some place in the whole that's not going to go along with the construction finish. So the barrier that you use.
Maybe we could put Jersey barriers and graffiti on them.
Well, the ones they use at the outdoor dining around the big cities, they'll be done with those. But you could look at like a wooden guardrail,
Is there much of a cost difference? I mean, I was shocked at how expensive.
There's much of a cost difference.
All right.
Actually, the wood might be more expensive.
Right now, yeah.
Right now, it might be more expensive. It might look nicer, honestly. And I thought that's the direction it might be going. Just my own opinion. I think it's going to look like 95 if you put metal Jersey barrier in the bottom. I think a little bit more probably would fit more character, especially with the Brady School on the other side of that. And there's no trees to hide it because they cut all trees down. So it would be an important thing to put on our strategic capital, but it doesn't get
I think it would be interesting to know where the border is, though, too. Does the district's property end right at the parking lot, or does it go up?
I went in there and tagged some trees, and for the plan I was using, I was going in between 12 and 15 feet, and they have like 20 to 30 feet worth of slope and hill.
Okay, so it's sort of like halfway.
I was going halfway.
Yeah.
And then they added a little bit more land when they did the retaining wall. Now you have more flat area, and then closer to Farm Lane, closer to Main Street, it's less of a slope now. So they took the extra space and they shrunk it a little bit. So it's interesting.
They didn't make it any better.
Yeah, it seems like it made the hazard worse.
Yeah.
I did include, just there's a project list that's really more for informational than for discussion, although, we have Wayne here, so if you do have any questions on any of that, that's all in balance for GG.
Oh, it's nice to have the update, to know what you're working
That's
on,
good.
it's helpful, yeah.
So if that's all we have for Wayne, I think we're jumping back now to
K, I think.
Yeah, we have KLM and then O through D. It's a matter of what order do you want to take things, and you're the chair.
Thanks, Wayne.
Thank you, Wayne.
Bye.
Thanks, Wayne.
Well, yeah, let's keep in order, I guess, it'll make it easier to, I mean, it's looking pretty likely that we're gonna end up continuing to Wednesday night. At this point, it's 10.
So I think it's, it becomes what's, kind of, what can't wait for the night, so which is up to you.
We should do Q. That's a review of date.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that alone is very much through that.
I suppose we should address K, which is the MOA with Merrimack.
Yeah, and that's timely.
Yeah.
The town building access protocols, I mean, that, I think
But I mean, that could be potentially a two-second discussion.
Which one?
The town building protocols in terms of access. My assumption would be that we would, continue with what we've been doing.
Yeah, okay. Well, why don't we just jump?
L, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I thought you meant building, okay.
So, use town building?
Yeah.
Those in favor?
Why don't we do L? We can just get that done right now. Go.
Well,
what about K?
We have K. Let's work our way through what we need to do now. And so K, proposed MOA with Merrimack, we should sort of, because I know, Angus, you have some significant thoughts on that at this point about it becoming a futile effort. And
did you get any feedback from the Merrimack Concom?
Not from the Merrimack Concom. I did talk to Carol today.
Yeah.
Because she wasn't sure whether, we had an updated proposal for her board to consider, and, it's gotten a little bit messy, I think, just in terms of some of the, questions that have been flagged, and so, I told her that we didn't have anything for them to vote tonight, nor do I think we have anything that this board could vote tonight. So I think really the question is, do we press forward, and if so, how do we do that without further compromising all the other things that we have to do?
Right.
It's just only 24 hours in a day, and,
so where do things stand? The position has been posted?
yeah, the position has been posted. We have not received any applicants, and I think it's great that we posted, and that's going to remain up, and it's with the MMA, it's with the MACC plus the newspapers, and I think if, let's say we got an applicant, tomorrow who was a great applicant, that could totally change the dynamic and help to incentivize people. Another scenario, Carol and I discussed is, let's say an applicant came in, and let's say, we don't end up formalizing an agreement. There could be a scenario where each community independently hires the same person, and kind of just like with Jay Smith, he worked for both for a long time. It worked well. There was never any kind of formal agreement. So it could go that way, and that could be fine. I think with some of the items that have been discussed, not just on our side of the river, but also with Carol's comments from a week or so ago. The idea, for instance, of splitting payroll and having each town handle its own payroll, and having accruals just in this job but not in the other, accrual, vacation and things. in my view, kind of undermines the idea that it is a shared position. So I feel like we're already kind of eroding that idea just with some of what's come out of this process.
Yeah.
So it could be fine that we each independently hire. I don't think that's the best outcome for whomever is hired. I think their life as an employee is going to be much better and much more secure and perhaps a better long-term fit if we could truly make it a single shared position. But I feel like, like I said in my note last week, if we had, 5 or 6 major issues we were tackling right now, we could roll up our sleeves and get it done, but we don't. We have 100 things and probably 40 major things. So it's just like with everything, it's a bandwidth issue and time in the day.
So Angus, were you saying that
hash this out? It's kind of, it's beyond our capacity at this moment.
Yeah.
At least wow, I'm sorry, Archie.
Just, you were saying that you mentioned accruals and stuff, so you're saying that they might not give somebody.
They do not.
Vacation?
Not might, they do not.
They do not?
They do not.
Well, it's only 15 hours a week.
Yeah, so it's below the threshold. So for instance, if someone's working 40 hours a week and they take a week off, they would only get paid for the 25 here.
But it's also complicated by the
oh man, that's so.
And the rate of pay in all likelihood would be different because their budgeted rate is ours is not too high relative to other conservation agents, but still, noticeably higher than theirs. So if you have someone with a different rate of pay, payroll handled in both towns, no accruals here.
They also have a pay rate for the agent and a pay rate for admin, so it
Yeah, they
averages
did,
out.
Carol did say that they're fine with using a blended rate, so that's what I put into the notes.
Okay.
I did the math and figured out what that would be. But even something as simple as the MOA, I was trying to standardize hours per week, and Carol said, no, we budget hours per month. So it's messy. And if you're an employee getting into that situation, compounded by, different reporting structures in the both two towns, but even within a single town, somewhat muddy reporting structure, which I know, the former agent, in his exit interview did express as not a big problem, but not a plus, in terms of how we have been set up over here. I'm concerned that even if we got this together, which is a big if, is that a good situation for that employee? Are we achieving what we had set out for, which is hopefully a more stable, longer term employee who sees fit to stay here for more than a couple of years?
Yeah. Well, and you also pointed out the issue regarding retirement.
I was thinking of that too.
If it turns out to be a 40-hour position that he's being paid for through a single entity, being paid by a single, by the lead party, and yet one municipality only funds 15 hours and with no benefits, then effectively the lead party, West Newbury, would become liable for the full amount of their retirement contributions. So that
I wouldn't accept that.
Yeah, I don't think any of us would. That would kind of blow that out of the water.
I think that when I raised that issue in my comments a couple of weeks ago, that I sent out, I think that was what led Carol to the recommendation that we split payroll.
Yeah.
And that's part of when I started to feel like we're really getting so far away from what we
the benefits have all gone.
Compounded with some of the other questions and comments that came in.
If they're not going to go for something as small as that, when we're doing all the administrative dirty work, you might say, then the heck with it.
My guess is that Merrimack is accustomed to something. They had a deal, and that's what they're accustomed to, and that's what they funded. That's what's been, approved and budgeted. I don't think they're going to repeat. I don't think they're going to get a deal like that again.
So they're not going to be able to find anybody.
Well, exactly. So they're going to, in a few months, they're going to be realizing that they're in trouble. I mean, they have. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think they're going to find somebody who fills the niche that they currently have defined that Jay did.
And unfortunately for all of us, it's gonna be too late at that point to make this work.
Was Jay receiving a lower hourly rate from them than from us?
Yeah, because they split his hours, he had 10 hours as an agent and 5 hours as an admin person, so, at significantly lower pay.
Oh, okay.
So if you blended, it was lower than ours.
Okay.
But he wasn't getting any benefits from them, and really, they're gonna have a hard time.
Yeah.
Okay. So it wasn't really equal kind of thing, no?
No, you would think if they're paying, not offering benefits, they would have a higher, hourly rate.
Yeah,
But
okay.
that wasn't the case.
Now, Carol didn't rule out the idea that they go back to their fall town meeting to increase the budget, but again, it becomes, how much time do we have to
That's too much, indefinite, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, we need.
We don't even know, they might say no.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
Well, or how do you extend an offer to someone in the, near term, maybe the next 4 to 8 weeks, if that's contingent upon a future appropriation. It's very messy. And on our side of the river alone, even without the regional issues, there's some messiness about, establishing hours of operation for the department or, maintaining records or those kinds of things, which, maybe they shouldn't be ambiguous, but they are, in our current form of government, so. And I think to get those to resolution, I would think would take,
I don't think I realized that the issues with Merrimack were so far apart, so what do we do?
That's where we are.
Okay.
So how long is Jay staying? Is it still August 1st, or?
So he will be in Merrimack through the end of August.
Okay.
It's always been the end of August, his birthday, which is, I think, the last day or very close to it of August. And I don't know what discussions he's had with the commission here recently. You may know that better than I do. The last time he and I spoke, I think it was prior to the last meeting. I think it was, probably a good 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago. And, he indicated that he talked to Judy and that he, wasn't gonna, just up and leave. And I think he's my observation. And Mike or Jenny may see more, but I think, I think he's not doing anywhere else than he needs to. But we're certainly glad he's here and doing what he is. My understanding is Judy's picked up more of the work in terms of drafting, conditions and things to help offset the time he has to spend. So I don't think he's going to disappear, but I think that end of August is probably a pretty hard date for him. It's something he's been talking about consistently for a couple of months.
Yeah.
So should we be advertising a 25-hour position? Do we have a job description that is that's ready for prime time?
Yeah, there's a job description for the agent.
It's unchanged from.
Okay, so
because that was another thing, is we never arrived at having
a combined job description. Right.
Process it would take.
Okay, so we're comfortable. Okay. So I mean, it almost seems as though we should.
We could post both.
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking. Just post the 25-hour per week job.
The only downside I can think of that, other than a couple $100 of advertising, which is really nothing, but does it dissuade a prospective applicant for the 40-hour if they also see this? Do they start?
Well, like, what's going on? They're gonna say, what's going on?
But the 40 hours it's a mirage at this point. I mean, it doesn't sound like it's any way that it's going to work.
I mean, I think if there was a qualified candidate who applied tomorrow, it could change the dynamic to say, guys, let's work together. We all have something to gain. It's got to be.
You think so?
Potentially.
Okay.
But we also, we got a lot of. It's not like we can drop everything and just put our energy into the finish line. We can't drop anything. We've got so much we're trying to keep in the air.
So what are they doing?
I don't know, do you have any sense? Are they-
No, I mean, Carol was out a couple of weeks ago.
No, what are they doing without a conservation agent?
Well, he's still there.
Oh, he's doing that too.
Yeah,
He's still their employee,
He
he's
didn't
working
ever
as a
leave there.
contractor.
Yeah, but in 5 weeks, he won't be, and they don't have, well, who knows if they have a plan B or not? As far as we know, they have no plan B, right? So, I don't know what they're gonna do when they don't have I guess we have significantly more activity that requires a conservation agent, but, presumably they.
Why is that?
Because I guess we have more wetlands.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I think probably what they would do is the chair of their commission would assume the agent's role.
That would be my assumption. That's his line of work.
Yeah. I don't think we should have two different advertisements. I think we should just keep the wording.
See what happens,
Yeah. So, I mean, certainly if there's someone, who can kind of roll up their sleeves and help, like, find the middle ground on this, it would be great, but I think, I'll continue to do my part, but I'll look back at the last 3 months and I've kind of almost we've hardly gotten any comments other than the work I've done.
Right.
No, but Angus, maybe somebody applies and then you have to just tell them that the details are that, okay, actually it's 25 here and it's 15 in the neighboring community. Some people might find that more interesting even. Who knows? I don't know.
And that is in the job ad, and we took both job descriptions and we posted them with the job ad. I'm a little surprised we haven't gotten any inquiries. It's been.
I think there's 2 or 3 other local.
Well, I know Newbury just hired a full.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I heard that. I don't have direct knowledge of that, but I did hear that they.
I think Hamilton is still looking where Bert was.
Oh, okay. Is that a full-time or part-time?
No, it's the same what he had, 20 hours.
So,
I think we need a backup plan.
Well, we have talked I just talked once, so it's not much, but I did talk to the Hamilton town manager a couple of months ago, and they were open to the idea,
but maybe it makes sense to go back to Hamilton. Maybe it makes sense to kind of lay the cards down with Merrimack and tell them this isn't going to work. It's easy for me to say because you're the one who would be doing the talking. So, but just explain to them this isn't going to work. The way you're willing to contribute, the way Merrimack's willing to contribute, this isn't going to work. And we feel that we need to move to another alternate plan, and that alternate plan may involve another community. And
That's good.
Because it seems like there's no motivation on Merrimack's part to try to make it work.
Yeah, well, and we also, we do have some issues on our end of our side of the water too.
Yeah.
That I think need to be cleared out.
Yeah.
In terms of, where the various authorities rest.
So would that be starting, if we were to do that, would that be starting over for you? Or do you think you've done enough legwork with Merrimack that it could be kind of transferred to, I know it's not
I don't
the
know
same.
who Hamilton's legal counsel is, but if it's KP, we would need to go through that same process of joint representation. Obviously, we have a working draft that was, I guess our work product we could work with as a base, but I haven't really given that any thought. And I don't know where they are. It's probably worth a conversation with their manager to find out where they are on posting and whether they're already receiving applicants or whether they're
Scratching their heads wondering where the
they
applicants
posted
are.
3 or 4 weeks ago. And
It's
haven't
been up
got-
since Bert left.
Yeah, but who knows, if they've gotten applicants or they could be interviewing for all we know.
Yeah. Well, you've done so much work on this. I hate to think about you starting over with somebody else. I was just wondering how much.
I think my feeling is if I felt like we were getting to where we were trying to get, that's, I work really hard. What said in last week is I feel like we're not getting, we're doing this work and it doesn't feel like we're even on track to get to where we wanted. Whether that's separate the payroll or, the lack of kind of consistency on accruals, the rate of pay, I think is, you could get around that if it was the only thing, but, you know, and then some of these questions on, you know, setting hours of operations, or like, you know, the reference in there to conferral between the manager here and the administrator there, and what constitutes a conference. Like, I don't have, you know, I don't want to, you know, we have to enter an intermunicipal agreement, that the binding authority is the select board, nobody else. And so it will be whatever terms this board would enter. But we have some things we need to clear up. Because you multiply this times 6, and that's the issue, is the lack of consistency and lack of predictability on different personnel oversight issues.
All right, so what's the next step? Just wait and see if we get any applicants? Or should we?
Angus, how long has the ad been out?
I think I posted, what, it's 2 Fridays ago, or 2 Thursdays ago, a little less than 2 weeks, if I recall.
Yeah, probably right.
Yeah, I think it was right around that timeline. Let's see, you know, while I was working on it, so I think it was,
You're not supposed to tell us that.
yeah. No, I think it must have been, I think it might have been, yeah, it was about 10 days ago. I want to say it was Thursday or Friday, the 17th or the 16th. I'm pretty certain.
So do we want to give it 2 weeks and see what happens, or I don't know?
Yeah. Do you think it's worth meeting with the Conservation Commission to try to iron out some of these issues ahead of time, or is that too much to take on?
No, I think if that meeting took place, that's great. I personally am, you know, I'm not looking for, I mean, I've gone to a lot of meetings and you know, I don't know, like, I also don't know that that's the right venue. Some of the questions that have been raised, I don't know that that's the right venue to have those discussions, in terms of personnel administration. I don't really think that's, like, where the center of gravity should be. You know, maybe we initiate a meeting, a daytime meeting, and invite people, something like that, but I feel like we're kind of bending over backwards when I know all I'm trying to do is actually, you know, is do what I'm charged with.
Angus is just trying to do his job.
That's right, and there is ambiguity, but the way, you know, it seems like the presumption is that every instance of ambiguity is reverting back to the pre-town manager act.
Right.
And that's just...
Everything is being put back, yeah.
Right, and so my concern is if we enter a, you know, binding legal agreement with a neighboring municipality, it kind of hardwires that, okay, all these points that are legitimately ambiguous are just going to be resolved in favor of, like, how it used to be. Right,
But maybe we don't fight that battle right this second, because we don't even have a candidate, or you know, Merrimack's not even playing ball with us at the moment, so.
Well, that was why I was thinking it might be time to take care of our own internal stuff. You know?
I think it's a good opportunity to engage the commission in a discussion about why some of these, you know, issues are problematic.
These are minor administrative.
Well,
we hired Angus to do this kind of stuff. It shouldn't be going to the commission. It should be Angus's job.
And this is not the only board that we're.
Oh, I understand that.
Yeah. So let's start working on it.
Right.
You know.
Well, you know, both Rick and Wendy and certainly Archie, I've talked with a lot over the months and years too. But you know, you've suggested perhaps invite. You know, meetings with each of the chairs of the independent boards and commissions. You suggested bringing all the chairs together. Either way, I do think it would be really probably long overdue to start to have the discussion more kind of, you know, it's always like the last thing we get to.
Yeah.
And it really needs to get more to the top of the agenda because it does inhibit our ability to move forward.
It affects everything.
Right.
Every single meeting we have affects the meeting.
It slows things down,
even
if it does get done, yeah.
Right.
Well, this is a good example of this kind of stuff could preclude, you know, our being able to establish a an agreement with Maryland, because these issues are not Maryland.
Right. Yeah. I don't
Maybe-
think it's the sole
maybe-
factor, but
No,
it's a
part of
major
it, yeah.
contributing factor.
maybe with more than one, one of the boards together. Maybe one, it seems like you're singling somebody
That's why I was
out.
thinking if we had the chair from each board,
I-
and then
I-
it's not personal, it's just, this is the.
I think that's better too, yeah. Except then it's, but I agree, they could team up, but at the,
We can take them.
but at the same time, it's less, like I said, personal, yeah.
So when would we do that?
Well, could we have just a meeting for that, you know?
I think that should be
Yeah,
like
I think it should like
a
a separate
standalone
item,
thing, yeah.
I think so, and, we've been talking for quite a long time about initiating a revamp of the personnel policy, with one of the kind of objectives being to ensure internal consistency with other, bylaws and policies and legislation, the Town Manager Act. And so, it could be an important part of kicking off that process, is to say, these are some of the issues that have come up and that we'd like to get resolved through clarification of policies, because in some cases, the policy is just silent on different things, like modifying job descriptions or, that kind of thing.
Who does interviews, all
Right,
that
it's all
kind of
just
stuff.
silent. It's just,
Yeah.
and so that's where people have, decades of past practice to say, well, we always did it this way. I mean, I understand, but it's now, so it's kind of like the fact that we haven't, had the bandwidth to revamp the policies is kind of, that ambiguity is, constraining. It's kind of like, well, now we're just reinforcing, right? The line. We've done some things ad hoc. I mean, I think we've actually done a pretty good job of working with what we have because we've had to make decisions every step of the way on different personnel things, but that doesn't really, over time, that doesn't stand up. You need to have the policy that people can read and understand and rely on. We have not had that. So, for instance, modifying job descriptions, we've done it a certain way, we've done it consistently in the 3 years I've been here, but that's not prescribed. That's been, you could say that's been a courtesy to the appointing authorities. We don't know, because we don't know where the policy is going to end up landing. But I do think where the select board are the approving entity for both hiring and for compensation, it stands to reason that the select board, it doesn't seem right that another entity could revise a job description and never even get any other approval for that. It just doesn't, it's so fragmented.
Or increase pay.
That's right, or increase pay with no request for approval.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had some fights on that.
Yeah.
It's happened a couple of times just in the last few months. It's very hard for, me to.
Okay, so I mean, the trouble is August is tough, so what are we gonna do?
Shoot for September? I mean, this is not something that should probably happen with you remote.
No.
Yeah.
No.
I won't be available most of all. I mean, I'll be back for August 30th. I'll be back a few days before that, but, so I could probably meet Wednesday of that week. The week before that. But, I couldn't guarantee anything before that.
You're gone towards the end of August, right?
I'm gone the week from the 14th to 21st, and then my dad's memorial service will be Friday the 27th, and the pastor.
Yeah, so let's.
He's coming now.
August is no good.
Yeah.
So I've kind of penciled in that I'd be out the 26th and 27th, and ideally, I think he and his spouse are coming down from Augusta Wednesday the 25th to Western Mass. So I would think I would meet him out there and spend a day and a half with him leading up to the service to help round that. He worked with my dad for a number of years, but it was 93 years, so
yeah,
there's a whole story that he's officiating.
Yeah.
So maybe the week after, so if we're meeting the 30th, that Wednesday, September 2nd, is that right? No,
First.
September 1st.
First day of school.
Should we just target that?
Okay.
So would the communication come from you, Angus, or should it come from the select board to these boards?
I'm happy to, reach out and, kind of outline some of the, ambiguities that are gonna need to be resolved if we're gonna get to the finish line. And then, say that, the board talked it over and would like to invite, but in the meantime, I'm happy to have conversations with people. I can't have it dominate my schedule because there's everything else going on.
Right.
Is this realistic though, to put this, from your perspective, is this realistic to put this together? Because you got a million other things on the table.
It's really tough, as you know, every day we wonder how we're gonna get done what we have to get done.
Yeah.
We got audit.
So Angus, don't have it, let's just have a discussion, just pretty open, but just say, these are some of, 5 bullet points, not 5 pages, literally 5 bullet points. These are our top 5 issues that we're having personnel-wise. We're trying to make the town consistent, and we just talk about those. You don't have to have any backup material saying this didn't work or we had this problem. Let's talk about it going forward rather than problems that happened in the past.
Yeah.
Because then people get defensive. Well, I didn't say that, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So there's very little preparation, and maybe we don't get something nailed down, but at least people get the idea in their head. Yeah.
So it would be all boards and committees with the staff?
I don't think library, because they're kind of independent by statute.
Well, so Board of Assessors is in good shape.
Yeah, Board of Assessors,
right.
where their staff is under the town manager appointing.
Right.
So it's really, conservation, planning, health and water are the ones that are, at least in our initial reading of the statute are all remain under their respective appointing authorities.
Yeah.
Some attorneys, including, the lead attorney at KP has opined that their read of the statutes, the town manager appoints all departments. That's not how we interpreted it, but even that's certainly subject to debate. It's not how we've gone forward, but these are the things that when we get to the policies have to be clarified one way or the other.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
But it has to, the seed has to be planted. Yeah.
I mean, I will say that anything that I would say would be grounded on my interest in doing the job in the statute, which is, among other things, consistency and fairness of personnel administration. And so that's
a great way to come at it. Yeah.
Structure makes it really impossible to do that. And so maybe, I don't know where that all leads, but that's the motivation. There's not some nefarious.
No, but that's good.
Yeah, no,
It's not supposed to be like some power grab or something.
Right.
I think we all understand that. It's just that not everybody else does. So we need to somehow make that clear, and by people or departments or boards not feeling that they're singled out. Hopefully it helps them understand the overall issue. So we have Conservation Commission, Board of Health, Planning Board, and Water Commissioners. Okay.
So, do you think it would be better coming from the select board?
It might be, yeah.
I can, if you're all right with that, I can draft something and, you could send it or.
Yeah, we can work together. I can get you my bullets, you can wordsmith it.
Sure.
Because some of these, the whole thing of, for instance, the process to amend job descriptions, that came up, my first couple of months, and it's come up again, and, that would clearly be one of the 5 bullet points is, what is the process?
Yeah, okay.
And there's
I just picked 5, but
but
I think 5 is workable. Let's not do more than that.
Yeah, you're right. 5 will address 95% of the problem.
Yeah, yeah.
That's right.
Okay, how we doing here?
So we're just gonna wait on the Merrimack, right? We're just gonna wait and see what happens with the Merrimack?
Yeah.
I mean, the,
Give it a couple weeks.
Give it a couple
Yeah.
more weeks, but
Yeah.
I think on the 9th, we should talk about what are we gonna do? Because, I mean, I'm serious, I mean, at some point, I think we may just wanna advertise a 25-hour position and hope, or reach out to Hamilton.
Yeah.
You know, if their position is still lingering in another 2 weeks.
Yeah.
This should be quickly, review of town building access protocols, whether masking will continue to be required in common areas.
I would make a motion to continue the policy as is
I
for
would
the
second
next,
that.
for
All
the
in
next
favor?
month.
Aye.
We beat
That has to be a
that
record.
minute estimate.
That was awesome.
Signs, we can deal with that later.
I make a motion, we defer item M.
Yeah, okay. The next, O's gonna take some time.
Yeah, this one's, you know, and I'm fine with it. Wednesday, you know, because that's
okay.
gotta be pinned down.
Yeah,
You know,
okay.
We gotta figure that out.
Review of, okay.
So, let me ask Mike, while he's here, so how much of an issue is people just coming, in other words, how much of a wall do we have to set up? And do you get lots of just random questions from, I don't know, the inspections department, or whatever it is?
It's a mix in the sense of, yes, I get people coming in and having questions and discussing a matter. Sometimes it's a little difficult in the sense that citizens call and say, oh, you're counsel, let me ask you. And
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
And, you know, I mean, what's the town's position on this? And usually I have to say, well, if it's like a zoning issue, you have to talk to building inspector. And then the building inspector can ask me, and I give him advice as to what the decision is.
Okay.
I don't give you
right.
public advice. I mean, sometimes it's like easy, like, because it's just like, you know, what's the bylaw? And I can say something simply like, look at the bylaw. Yeah. That's what it says.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't have to send them around and stuff like that. I do get, you know, kind of questions, and I try to give people some background. Like, I guess some information would be like you know, the mailbox thing. You know, I mean, I guess is there a statutory reference on that? Because he was using Maine, so like that. So, you know, I get that kind of question a lot. Like, what is the right way of doing this? You know, is there some statute or something that addresses this issue? And I can get that from anyone, you know, at any time. So,
how much of your time?
It depends. You know, I could spend half a day on one of those things, or not have anything for 2 days.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's not
just random.
It's what comes up, you know. I think people have enjoyed the idea of they could just talk, and, you know, a lot of times I'll have the answer, a lot of times I might not, you know, but the idea that they can talk it through in a very informal, you know, methodology. I mean, and sometimes I'm proactive in actually trying to tell people stuff, because, like, for example, there was an issue where the planning board had sent their minutes in, and, you know, they had this big, long discussion about having, you know, somebody approving another house on the same lot, and how they had to, you know, approve it with conditions, and I went up to Leah and I said, your regulations already say you can't do it. And she goes, oh yeah, that's right. You know, I mean, and it was just pointing that out, that the regulations say they can't have more than one dwelling unit on the lot. And so you don't have to condition everything, you know, on this. It says it right there. And she goes, oh, that's good. So, but I get a lot of that, you know, and so.
Yeah, it's definitely been a convenience for people to not,
Yeah.
but if we're calling KP Law at, you know, X number of dollars
Yeah, I
per
don't
10
think
minute
people will do
increment.
it. I think.
Well,
that,
yeah, so that's the
you know,
idea,
I mean,
we have to.
Well, for the things that are simple answers, what it's gonna force people to do, is to
A
think.
little more of their own
Is to think a
homework.
little bit, and, you know, I'll confess, I've asked you things that I could have, should have.
Well, you know, you just got a request the other day from a chair of a committee wondering if, the associate member counts toward the quorum.
Yeah.
You know, that's, you know, were you being asked as town clerk or town council? I don't know, but that's certainly not something that you
No, that's-
prefer to keep.
Yeah, a town clerk should be able to answer that.
Yeah.
I mean, even I could have answered that.
Yeah, so I mean, I think people have gotten used to the convenience of that, and that has been a plus for them. But yeah, you do, I get, you know, open meeting questions all the time. What do I have to do here? Can we do this? You know, and, I give them an answer. I don't know if people like the answer. I don't know if they end up following the answer, but at least got the answer. And sometimes it's like, there is no real good answer. This is, I can give you my opinion. And, you know, my opinion is usually good, but every now and then we have, you know, it's a split case. I remember working with the bicentennial, we had an opinion to.
The Red Sox.
Oh, the Red Sox, you know, split that back and forth.
Let's not go there, right?
So what I'm concerned about is, given that it's a convenience, you're not here and we have a new town clerk, you know where all the questions are gonna end up is on Angus's desk, and I don't know how to, you know, preempt that.
Well, and I will say, you know, I feel like some people have gotten the idea that, like, I do want to hear from people, and you know, sometimes if I know the question, I can sometimes get an answer. Then if people go around me, it ends up becoming a bigger issue. I guess my biggest, you know, concern with one of the bigger concerns with the job is because of our overall staffing, especially in the finance and HR arena. I don't have the time that I should have as town manager to do all that, because I have done that in other jobs. It's totally open door and totally accessible. But in this particular job, you know, I'm just chained to my desk because I got, you know, so maybe, you know, once the new staff get up to speed and the one position that we haven't advertised yet in finance, I don't know how that one position will fill all our needs. It won't, but ideally we get to where we're better equipped to handle those questions. But, you know, I think the main purpose with the council policy is to have some kind of, you know, so that questions are sent to KP that are town legal.
There has to be some kind of gatekeeping.
Yeah, because if it's an answer that can be gotten from the Attorney General's guide on the open meeting law, we need to, you know, encourage people to read that guide, not run up a legal bill.
Well, it's gonna have to be approved by you anyway before, I mean, people can't just call KP Law.
No, and they wouldn't accept a call. I mean, that's in their contract, they're gonna look for authorization because they don't want to be haggling about who authorized the work.
So what, I saw that Tim Cronin had a comment in here, or a question about it.
Do you have the page when
69 of the
I guess what limited basis needs to be defined, you know, versus significant engagement.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, the policy that I put together for review on page 66, you know, was intended to kind of thread the needle between access, by having some, like Archie said, gatekeepers, where, you know, either my office or the chair of the select board would need to approve, which is not a high bar. You know, if there's a good question, you know, neither of us are looking to block access. It's just a matter of managing the workflow. Also, what Mike knows is when I send them a request for, you know, I'll tee up the request so much to kind of make it as easy as possible for him to give me a clear answer. I'm not going to send him a one sentence like, and make him figure out what I'm really asking, like, or to Tim. You know, I'll send Tim I'll craft a question in a way that he's able to pinpoint exactly what the question is and not spend half a day.
Well, on page 66, your item number 2, is that, so that's not a whole board, that's just one assessor or one park and rec person. Do you want them to be able to do that?
No, so 2 things. First of all, this is the language right from the bylaw, so good, bad, or ugly, it's what we live with. But Mike's interpretation of this, which I think makes a lot of sense, is that that would be someone who's a single office holder, namely the moderator or the constable, as opposed to item 1. And again,
okay.
Which is an elected board by majority vote of said board. If the very next item then gave each individual board member the right to counsel, that would kind of make item 1.
That would completely.
Like it would totally.
Yeah, but that's why I was confused.
That's why I've been confused.
It's a pretty weird wording.
It is.
You know.
I have read it to mean any elected official.
You could totally argue it that way. Yeah.
Right.
No.
Jenny, if you're looking at it.
I'm good. I think I'm gonna duck out.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jen.
All right, thanks.
No, but I mean, you know, my opinion though, is it makes, your argument is actually true, is that, it has to be, any canon of statutory construction requires that bylaws must be read to make sense. That there's a reason for it. And so the idea is you've already covered the boards in section 1. The other one is an elected official. That would be.
And I get you, an individual elected official. Okay.
Which is basically, in our case, a moderator or a constable.
Got it.
Because everyone else is a board. So theoretically, if a board member wanted me to ask a question, I could theoretically say, well, no, your board has to ask that. So, the example I use is, suppose someone was elected to say the Board of Assessors, and they wanted certain things done, the other 2 board members didn't agree with it. They couldn't independently say, oh, I want this done, I want that done. It's got to be a board decision.
Okay, well, now I feel better about that.
Yeah, well, he just clarified that with me in the last 2 weeks, because I had read it more broadly, but it made perfect sense once you explained that. So the idea of what I put in front of you is because right now we have a policy and a bylaw that are inconsistent. So what I've tried to do is write a policy that is consistent with the bylaw, but does, impose some.
Right. I mean, we tried to straighten that out, but it didn't work at town
oversight.
meeting, but.
Right.
Hey, so, how late do we want to go? I thought we were getting to the point where we wanted to do things, we wanted to take care of things that had to get done tonight, where time was critical, and,
that's a good point.
I think we can finish.
Yeah, we're all gonna be here probably Wednesday anyway for Mike's.
Right.
So.
But, Q, review of date for fall town, I mean, we can resolve this.
Oh, okay, but what about this one? Are we happy with this?
Quite honestly, I think we should finish this next meeting.
Okay.
I think we should do, I don't know about anybody else, but I'm getting really fuzzy,
Me kidding?
I knew you'd take advantage of that opportunity.
You teed it up, I mean.
That's right. Yeah.
All right, Q.
Yeah, Q, because we need to let other people know what's up, what the plan is, so that other boards and committees,
Right, so.
know.
Okay,
So how are we gonna remember that this is not resolved?
I'm not good with dates, so just.
Okay, well, Angus laid things out pretty well, and Angus, I won't even try to argue with your logic, I think it's perfect. So, we came up with a date of, I think it was September, we talked about September 8th.
Yep.
And, you presented an argument, was it September 1st?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, so September 1st. And we can go through the dates, it's outlined here, and Angus outlined it, wherever that page that is. 89, okay. That being the case, although last time I think we voted on September 8th, we should revote. Does anybody disagree with that date?
No?
Okay. That way, if we settle this tonight, then everybody else knows what date they have to work with. I'll make the motion. I'll move that we set September 1st as the deadline for warrant articles to be submitted for inclusion on our upcoming fall special town meeting.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just to point out that, as in the footnote there, a petition article can come in right up until the moment the board votes to close it, but I think for those initiated by boards, committees, or departments, I think September 1st is a good.
Okay. Should the motion actually have included the intention to close the warrant on September 7th?
No, because you can do it. You can make that motion on September 7th.
Okay, great. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Just so you know too, that to put an article on a special town meeting, you need 100 signatures.
Okay.
Not 10.
Okay. Great. Thanks. Is there anything else that or is
there's nothing else that's time sensitive?
Yeah.
Is that grant, is that something that's like ongoing?
Yeah, I mean, that can wait till Wednesday for sure.
Okay. And under town manager updates, there's nothing there that we need to.
No, we covered everything but the Essex County, which is just, it's just good news.
Yeah. Actually, we didn't really, did we cover updated investigation potential establishment of affordable housing trust?
Oh, no, we didn't. We did not.
And, so we'll do that next time. So, I would move that we, adjourn with the intention to complete, tonight's agenda, when we reconvene, and the remaining items are on this agenda, items M, O, P, R, S, T, U, V, like an alphabet, Z, double A, well, that's doubled actually, the important reduction of effort.
Yeah,
That's
that
actually doubled,
by
okay.
accident.
Okay, yeah, no problem. And GG.
We changed.
Oh, well, it's updates regarding
Actually, I mean, keep GG too, because,
Yeah.
if I have time to put together a list for Wednesday, I can do that.
Okay.
It has to be to a place and time certain.
Yeah, and yeah, I was gonna get to that, thank you. And the place and time certain will be, the same, space, the same room on, Wednesday.
Same bad time, same bad chance.
I was gonna say that too, yeah.
There was certain direction, I know.
On Wednesday, July 28th at 6:30 PM.
And it is a different Zoom, but that's reflected on the meeting posting.
Okay, great,
Different login.
Great.
Remote.
thank you.
Was there a vote?
Second.
Oh.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.